Dear football, I love you so, so much. Please never leave me again. Sincerely, all of us. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday on a Tuesday here on the Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate. Welcome in. Great to have you. What's happening, y'all? It is great to be with you. I am Rob Brown, directly across from me, in charge of the mayhem this morning. He is the Sultan of Swag, the Professor of Perfection, the Wizard of Wave, the Great One. Hashtag Dad Kicks Colonel Grudge. Lonzo is here as well. What up, Zoe?
Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Rob Brown Show. Rob Brown has no energy this morning. Don't make me have to bring it. Wow. See, that's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. And you can see how I feel live on the stream on many different avenues that you can go to see us live on the stream.
Yeah, we. It turns out we finally talked.
He woke up.
We finally talked the powers that be into upgrading our StreamYard experience. So now we're like on all the platforms. Some of them you can't get to. Like you can't get to Lonzo's private Facebook, but we're there.
Why can't you get to it? It wouldn't let you share it? It looks like it's up there.
No, I mean if you're not friends with Lonzo.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you could be my friend. It's not that hard.
Do you just click yes?
Oh no, I have to vet.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I learned early on. Vetting is a good thing.
Yeah,
including going info, friends, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I opened up many moons ago. I opened up my Facebook, whatever, to listener friendships. And by the way, for the record, I am comfortable saying that the majority of friends that I have here in the upstate started out as listeners or people that I met through the job, right? Stacks, Keegan, like the list of guys you hear me talking about that are friends of mine, Andrew, Joe, all these guys came about from being listeners first. I'm a really easy guy to get along with. And
I'm not.
But that being said, I don't just take every friend request. There's like 9,000 friend requests sitting in my inbox right now. I can't take them all.
Well, during the early days of social media, when we were required in the building to get on all social media, some people resisted. We had meetings about this and the proper ways to do things. And I was told, yeah, accept all of them. And then after a while, I realized that was bad advice. And so then you wake up, you look and go, oh, how'd that get on there? Let me delete.
The majority of you guys aren't, but a lot, like there's a lot of weirdos that want to hang out with me, Alonzo. All right, there just are. But you know where you can find the stream? At facebook.com/thefanupstate. Facebook.com/thefanupstate. On Twitter. At twitter.com/thefanupstate. It's now on our Twitter page at twitter.com/thefanupstate. On YouTube by searching and subscribing to The Rob Brown Show. Or you can get it on my show's Facebook page at facebook.com/The Rob Brown Show. All of those platforms are carrying the stream now. And we would love for you guys to join us. Skrilla's already in there. He said, morning, boyos. Welcome back. Yes, indeed. I got to tell you, this, Lonzo, the first 3-day weekend of 2022 that I actually stayed in town, right? The first 3-day weekend I actually stayed in town. I did nothing this weekend, and it was amazing.
And you're still tired. Still tired. What's up with that? I mean,
That's not entirely true. Let me tell you what happened on Saturday, all right? Saturday was the lady friend's birthday.
I wonder what you did, Rob.
I did not go line dancing.
No.
I did worse.
I wonder what you did, Rob.
Stay tuned. I'm getting to that. Friday was actually her birthday. All right, her birthday was on Friday. But because I had the show, I had worked during the day, and then, of course, I had Burns v. Greenville on the call Friday night.
Burns is on fire, man.
Burns is hot right now. I mean, hot right now. because we had Burns Greenville on Friday night, and Friday night was her birthday, we decided to celebrate Saturday. Well, on Saturday morning, she's like, can we do something today? Because her game wasn't until 7:30. And unlike me, she doesn't have to watch every game. But I'm like, you know what? We can. So I went to YouTube TV, and I just said, record every college football game on television today. I went to my streaming services. I set my computer to record every NCAA football game that was on any streaming service I was connected to. And she said, I want to go for a hike. I'm like, all right, it's your birthday. You know, I'm not getting like, this is going to be the only Saturday where I'm not in front of the TV from 10 a.m. until ? But because it's your birthday and I'm a good guy and I like spending time with you, 100% fine. Let's go for a hike. So we went up, Zoe, to Paris Mountain State Park. And if you go hike Paris Mountain, there's they got two lakes. There's one in the front, Lake Placid, and there's like a little like 3/4 mile loop around it that's real flat. It's a nice little intro hike. Well, we did that one 2 weeks ago. There's another like way up in the top of the park called North Lake. And she's like, let's go hiking. Let's go see that lake. I'm like, word, that sounds good. Let's take a look. We hiked from the parking lot like all the way up. It goes up. It goes up and downhill, right? You got to go up to the top and then back down the other side. And of course, that means when you come back, you got to go uphill again. So we hiked to this lake thinking, all right, like 40, 45 minutes out, 40, 45 minutes back. We're looking at an hour and a half, top end with a couple of breaks, 2 hours. We took the dog. Our dog's not a big dog, right? Let's not like a 4-mile hike dog, right? We get all the way up to this lake, going uphill. We get all the way to this lake, and I'm like, how long have we been gone from the car? Because I'm thinking to myself, I also threw her a birthday party Saturday night, right? Birthday party's at 7. I want to get there at 7. Well, I'll tell you what I did in a minute, but I had money down for this birthday party. And our obligations started at 7, right? So I'm like, we got to be there at 7. I know you. I mean, we're hiking. We're both going to need a shower, but I also know that we're going to a party for you. So I know you want to get the face on, get the makeup did, get the hair did, all that. So I want to get back in time. We hiked an hour and a half to the lake. Then it took about 2:15 to get back. Because neither one of us is in good shape. And the dog is tiny, right? The dog is not meant to be hiking 4 hours. So we got all the way to the lake. And, like, I'm not in good shape. She's not in good shape. We got halfway back, and we were both like, let me put it this way. She put up an Instagram picture on the way out. It was like a really cool picture of it was me and my dog, and I had the backpack on and the hiking shoes. It was like she took it from a distance with a mountain. She's like, we're hiking people now. We got halfway back, and I'm like, we are not hiking people. We ain't hiking people.
Did you wear flannel and have a walking stick?
No.
Well, you're not a hiking guy yet. You got to be wearing your flannel and a hiking stick.
It was basketball shorts and a soccer jersey.
Did you eat granola on the way there and granola on the way back?
We did have trail mix, which I feel like it's a step in that direction. We woke up on Sunday morning. We had all these grand plans for Sunday, right? It's the last Sunday of no NFL football. I'm like, hey, this is your last Sunday where Carolina and Saints games don't become my bride to be on Sundays, right? So what do you want to do? And the night before, it was, we're going to hit this winery and that brewery and this restaurant. We're going to go see this guy play music here and then go get lunch over here. And all these grand plans for Sunday. Both of us got out of bed. The hell kind of sci-fi thing is going on here, Lonzo? Is that what?
We're being visited by something. I don't know.
The lights in the studio are all strobing out right. What the hell?
unless Chris is playing with them somewhere in the building.
Okay, that's the reasonable explanation.
That's my first thought. If not, I remember this happening back in 2012. Yes, yeah.
Anyway, we wake up Sunday.
I could turn the lights completely off if you want.
Chris, stop! We wake up on Sunday morning with all these grand plans. Both of us get out of bed at the same time. I'll acknowledge it's like late. It's like 9:45, 10 o'clock when we get up. So I got up out of the bed and like stood up, and the legs just went, nope, right back down. But what do we do Saturday night, you ask?
I'm sure the lights were doing this when you did what you were doing.
What did we do Saturday night, you ask? What we did is I paid American money, valuable United States dollars, in order to rent for her and her friends a karaoke stage for the night. Here's the worst part about it. The worst part about it was I rented the karaoke stage for like 4 hours, yeah? Starting at 7 p.m., which is too early for karaoke because nobody's drinking yet, or at least not heavy enough to get talked on stage. Those of you watching the stream, you're like, we're not crazy. It looks like the Gamecock Stadium in here right now. Sandstorm's blaring in my head. I rented a karaoke stage for 4 hours. Well, we got going, and for like the first 45 minutes, her nor any of her friends wanted to sing karaoke. Because here's the thing, Lonzo. I rented the karaoke stage out exclusively for our party, which means you can only sing if you were with us, right? You'd have the blue wristband got you on stage. Nothing else would. Well, it gets to be like 45 to an hour deep. Nobody's done anything. We're already taking off the clock. I've paid money for these people to sing karaoke. I'm like, nothing's happening. So finally, I got to bring the lady friend a shot of Fireball to coerce her into starting karaoke. She does. She sings her song, Lonzo. Nobody else signs up. I'm like, what the hell? I could have just brought us to a bar.
So what Fleetwood Mac song did she sing?
She did not. She opened with... What did she open with? I don't remember. It was hip-hop, and it was hilarious. It was hilarious. But anyway, nobody goes to karaoke, so Rob Brown now has to get up and serve as karaoke host for the evening.
I just want to interrupt. For the first time probably ever in 25 years, I summoned an engineer, and they can actually see what's happening. Because usually an engineer walks in the room and it stops.
We're getting sci-fi attacked right now, Chris, is what's happening. Chris was like, watch this. Click. Fixed.
I was going to turn it off just completely, but I wanted you to see it was actually doing that because I have no problem with the lights being off.
The stream does, though. They got to be able to see us. We need to glow. Man, this is really derailing my. All
right, so we're back to karaoke. We're back to karaoke. Did you guys sing Islands in the Stream?
We did.
Of course you did.
We did.
Of course you did.
That's her jam. That's her jam. But to
no
get the party
peaches,
going,
no peaches and herb.
No peaches and herb. No peaches and cream either.
Reunited, and it feels so good.
We did. So because the karaoke party was just not what it should have been, I ended up having to go Vanilla Ice, followed by Boots, Scoot, and Boogie, just to get the party going. Oh, followed by Wonderwall, followed by Mr. Brightside, because I didn't know what genre was going to hit with these clowns.
What genre hit?
Mr. Brightside.
It's so weird.
We had to, eventually, I was like, you know what,
dude? It's a bunch of 90s people. Of course that's what's going to hit.
Eventually, I had to walk up
to
the dude.
You sang Wonderwall.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Judge, Chris, go ahead.
By the way, I demand to be invited to your next karaoke gig.
Why didn't you come to this one?
I don't know because I didn't know about it.
You know what it is?
Invited me.
You know what it is?
For the record.
Chris, we're radio friends. We're work friends. We're work
No,
friends.
that's not true.
We are work friends.
We're catching an invite, but it was at 7 p.m. on Saturday. You're unavailable.
Yeah, I am unavailable.
I just didn't think about.
Thank you. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
Chris.
Not in a
Chris,
jackass way.
Chris, you're a work friend.
At least you admit it. I
No,
didn't cross your mind.
it wasn't-
As somebody who might enjoy karaoke. I have a long love of karaoke.
It was
He
Courtney's
does not.
birthday party, right? It was Courtney's birthday
Happy
party.
birthday, Courtney.
There you go. It was Courtney's birthday party. So it really was all, it wasn't even my friends. It was Courtney's friends, except for I'm trying to
So
go
we're
to
not
them.
Courtney's friends. Okay. All right. I guess that works.
I was in here fixing the lights, and I was caught up in the conversation you were having about karaoke. And
Yeah, he fixed the lights. He turned them up and turned them down. It worked.
Hey, they're working, aren't they?
By the way,
Yeah.
we do have sports stuff coming up because it turns out there were football games this weekend.
A lot of them. Yes.
But on my way out the door, I heard you talking about your list of just because people weren't into it, and I've experienced the same thing. You go to the karaoke bar or whatever, and just the crowd isn't into it that night for whatever reason. A lot of people show up for karaoke night. They show up because it's karaoke night, and they want to get involved. But sometimes you have that off night, and I liked your list. I wanted to say. Build Me Up Buttercup.
It's a great one.
It's a great. The whole bar will get behind it.
Here's why this gets brought up. It's not just because I'm like
Should have went Sweet Caroline. I mean, because everyone sings that
not
song.
at 7 p.m.
Why?
Yeah.
Not at 7 p.m.
All right. Ben on the stream said Kings of Leon, Sex on Fire would have blown the roof off.
You'll notice about the 4 songs that I picked, zero vocal talent required. Right? The 4 songs I picked, with maybe the exception of Brooks and Dunn, you don't have to really be able to sing.
Why didn't you go with like some Stray Cat Strut or something like that?
So here's why Karaoke Party got brought up. Because I, Chris, despise karaoke to my core. I despise it to my core. And
how many songs did you sing?
The only thing that is worse than karaoke is karaoke when I am at a sports bar and there is a football game on. Do not turn off the sound to South Carolina, Georgia State in order to let losers sing karaoke. Here's the problem. I was the loser during the South Carolina, Georgia State game, right? So we're in this bar, and it's not a sports bar per se, but it is a bar with like multiple big schools. We went to group therapy downtown. I'll give them a plug. And it was great. They did an awesome job. It's a very cool venue.
Did you sing Creep?
No, I did not. You'll love, there's a mini golf course in there. It's movie themed and it's all like gigantic props. Like they have an iron throne made out of putters. It's really cool, right?
That's nice.
It's a great bar, but in the bar area there's like genuinely 50, 60 people in Gamecock Garnet and Black that came to drink beer and watch the Gamecocks play. And then I'm like, hey, everybody, don't watch your football game. Here's Brooks and Dunn. That's what you came for, right? This guy with like minimal vocal ability singing country 90s songs. This is what oh, no, that's not good enough. How about Oasis? So Oasis good for, no? Vanilla Ice, is that better than your football game at the bar you came out to watch? I hate karaoke. I hate it infinitely more when there is a football game on TV that I want to watch and listen to. And on Saturday night, because I love the woman in my life.
This is what this is all about. This is where
you were there to watch a football game, not to celebrate your.
No. I didn't know.
This is proof of how much he cares. That's what all this is about.
I recorded the football game, and I watched it yesterday.
Upset about people doing things like that at a bar that is for that.
I absolutely
can.
can.
You pointed out. Well, yes, you can. You're wrong, but you can. But as you pointed out, this is not a sports bar. You want to go to a sports bar that is focused on sports. Yes, absolutely. I can understand not having karaoke night at that place. But for a bar an establishment, even more general than a bar, an establishment that is trying to appeal to multiple crowds, they've got the game on TV just to cater to people like you. They've got the karaoke. They've got the mini golf. They got drinks, obviously, that are going to attract
there was
people.
karaoke.
Yes, but even Lonzo is going to go to a place that serves drinks, even though he doesn't drink, because they've got the other things that he does like.
Karaoke sucks. It's bad. And if you do it, you should feel bad. All right?
I've
if you want to
lost a
sing,
little bit of respect
if
for
you,
you. I have to say.
you had some? I appreciate
A
that.
little bit.
Yeah, so
appreciate that.
on the stream, people are asking questions. I thought he did 5 songs. Someone's saying he said he did 4 songs. How many songs did you do, Rob?
Vanilla Ice.
You who hates karaoke.
Hang on. Vanilla Ice, Oasis, Brooks and Dunn, Islands in the Stream as a duet with her. Oh, I backup vocaled for Kevin on Backstreet Boys' I Want It That Way. So 5.
Did Kevin dance?
No, I did.
Oh, well, I know you did. I wanted to
did.
know if Kevin danced.
'Cause my thought was-
you danced for every song you did. You're Rob Brown.
If you
but
get
I want to
me
know
up
if
here-
Kevin did it.
If you get me up here to do this crap, I'm going to do this crap. Right? Like, I have to.
You're an entertainer. That's what you do.
If I'm going to get up here and do this crap. So, if you were at group therapy, I am not sorry that I threw my girlfriend a birthday party that she genuinely loved. I am, however, sorry if you came out to watch the Gamecocks game and you got me going, stop, collaborate, and listen over the top of it. Listen! All right, let's take a break.
If you would have did Ninja Rap, they would have went nuts. Go Ninja, go.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll actually talk about football after an outstanding weekend of football. Clemson covers last night. South Carolina covers Saturday night. And LSU did not cover the entire left side of their extra point line. That game was on drugs. FSU, LSU. That game was high. We're talking about all of them when we come back next on the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. All right, stream, got to do it live. Stay right there. I'll be right back. All right, dudes and dudettes, I'm back. Appreciate you guys sticking around. Hope everybody's kicking butt, taking names.
What's that mean exactly? Kicking butt and taking names. I mean, I get the kicking butt part.
I don't
So,
know.
so what, you kick someone's butt, then ask them their name afterwards? Is that how that works? I don't know.
According to English.stackexchange.com, taking names means recording a list of future contestants who will also be beaten up or defeated in the defined task.
So it's basically, you see what, you want
I
some?
kicked your butt
You want
and
some?
you're next.
You want
Yeah,
some?
yeah, yeah.
You want some? Okay, all right.
I'm putting together a list of rear ends I'm about to whoop.
So basically, you're going Goldberg.
Who's next?
No, you're next. You're not taking it because you're telling them who. I don't know. This is weird.
Either ones,
So,
right?
so that had to happen enough for that to become a phrase.
I mean, I can see it. Like if you're out there just fighting people.
Like, let's say you're at a karaoke bar and
Like yell at who wants some, and like people put up their names, your hands, you're like you.
okay,
You
all right, all right.
you-
How you
you
spell
all
that
get
last
some.
name? All right. Wait, did Cade make it in the game last night?
Yes, and
Because I turned it off after the
went, like,
other
3 of
interception.
5 for 65 and a touch, and looked great.
So what? So he got in garbage time when all the backups were on the other team, and yeah,
Smoked him.
yeah.
mean,
Way
smoked
to
him.
go.
All right, Tiger fans. Do we have a QB controversy? Is it time to start the QB controversy talk? The answer is, of course it is not. No, it's not.
You know, for the one of the first times in my life, I'm embarrassed for Clemson fans. I am. I'm embarrassed for you that you're that kind of fan. You know, I thought that you were a certain kind of fan, Clemson fan. Now I know you're that kind of fan. I already knew you were delusional. Already knew you were arrogant. Now I'm just going to say you're stupid. Okay, you're just stupid. And here's why. Okay, all the problems that were happening during that game last night, some of them were DJ's fault. For some of them was horrible play calling. Some of them were
was not impressed with the play
receivers not catching the ball.
Lot of drops.
And you, I mean, seeing guys that I really, really know. That I know really well. Oh, see, we put Cade in there. See, this is going to be you won. What was it, 41-10 or something?
41-10.
Yeah. I think you won the game convincingly. There was a little bit of struggles in the beginning. Offensive line, you guys need to step it up, or Clemson's in trouble when they actually play good competition. But the fans, come on, man. You know what? Just go ahead and put your orange and purple away. Go ahead, because that's what you do when you get upset. You start crying and whining. When you don't get what you want, you put your stuff away. Go ahead and put your stuff away, because DJ ain't going anywhere. And Cade comes in during garbage time. Yes, garbage time, when it doesn't matter. Oh, look at him. Look, see, coaches, we know better than you. We're smarter than you. I don't care if you've won a couple national championships. Yeah, we're just going to have to turn it on or off or what. Or I need this. Anyway, so I'm embarrassed for you, Clemson fan. I really am. And you can come at me and say all the things that you've said for 25 years that I've been on the air, and that's fine. But come on. I mean, your team won convincingly. Stop it. So that little kid who just got the lollipop, but they want the big lollipop because someone else is. I mean, just stop it.
Well, someone has opinions this morning.
Embarrassing. How can you look yourself in the mirror?
Someone has opinions this morning. How can you look yourself in the mirror? He says. Outstanding take. I wasn't going to be that aggressive about it. But I like it. I like it out of Lorenzo. I like the juice on that, man. Yeah, it's not a quarterback controversy, all right? It's not a quarterback controversy. If DJ has the balls get caught that got dropped last night, DJ's sitting on 315 and 3 touchdowns, right? And if I'd have told you last night he was going to wrap up that game in the ballpark of 26, 25 of 32, 315 and 3 touches, you'd have been thrilled about that, yeah?
No, they wouldn't. That's the point.
They just said
they would not.
400.
They've already decided that they have condemned DJ because of last year. He could win the national championship, and they'll still say that Cade could have done better.
So I was talking to a cat last night. Talking to a guy last night, and he's a listener, right? He walked in last night, and apparently, so Stathakis was there. And he walked in last night, and he's talking to Stacks, and he's like, man, I'm kind of mad. Rob Brown said he was going to be here, and he's not here. And Stacks was like, that's him right there. Like, he's right in front of you. So I walked over and said, hi, I apologize. I didn't catch his name. He's like, you don't know me. I know you. I listen every day. So if you're listening, please call the show. We also have we're going to put a side bet down on Clemson v. Notre Dame. Anyway, game starts, and in drive number 1, there's a snap right to DJ's, what is it? I think his left shoulder. Pops him in the hands, floats up in the air, and the bar lost its mind. By the way, that's why I wasn't there last night. You wanted me to come and spend. I did. You said you were.
Yeah, no. I said I'd think about it. And then I thought about it. And why do I want to be somewhere, although I'm sure the food and the atmosphere is excellent, but I would have been surrounded by orange. And after today, I definitely wouldn't go.
Bar popped off after that. So DJ puts together a touchdown drive and then another. There was the block punt. There was a lot going on. And the Clemson fans are like, we got to go to Cade. Because the first quarter ended 0-0. They're like, we got to go to Cade. We should be up 14. We got to go to Cade. DJ had, I don't know, Zoe, 5 passes dropped. I watched the game last night. I did not get a chance to watch. Usually what I do is I watch the game live, and then I go back and I watch it a second time with the commercials clipped out. I go back and watch it a second time, and I watch it from a more analytical frame. Like the first set, I'm just getting my overall perspective on the game, right? What's hitting, what's missing. I agree with Lonzo. The play calling was bad last night. The defensive line last night saved Clemson. Saved them. It was 14-3 at the half. It genuinely could have been 14-10. It could have been 14 up at the half. The D-line saved them.
Let me be what a Clemson fan would. No. The D-line didn't save them. You know what? The D-line would have been better if Brent Venables was there. There were holes in that line. There were definitely holes in that line. If you're playing a better team, you're in trouble.
So,
yeah, you got in the backfield some, but you had a better running back, they'd have been in trouble.
What I'm going to say here is that the loss of both coordinators was overwhelmingly evident last night, in my opinion. The loss of both coordinators, the loss of Elliott and Venables both, was evidently clear last night. The red zone play calling for Clemson was atrocious. It was atrocious. You had misreads. In fact, there was one late in the game where they flowed everybody to the right and then tried to hand the ball to, I think it was Kobe Pace going left. And the defensive end ate his lunch. I mean, wrecked him. Like, wrecked him. The play calling was not good last night. And it's something that's going to have to get worked out. And I'm not upset at Dabo on this.
Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame. You call a game like that against any of those teams, Clemson loses. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
I'll tell you this. I agreed with that list up until Sunday night. I don't know if FSU's ready yet. FSU won that game because LSU handed it to them. FSU beat LSU because LSU could not stop punching themselves in their own face, right? Miami, on the other hand, will beat that Clemson team. Notre Dame is good. Like, I know there's a lot of people, and I want to talk about this coming up in the next hour of the show. I want to talk Clemson and South Carolina in this hour. There's a lot of people who looked at that Ohio State v. Notre Dame game, a game that the Buckeyes won by 11, and were like, is Ohio State overrated?
Yeah,
no, I am telling you
if you ever watch the game, then you'll understand what the word conservative means.
Yeah.
Because that thing cost me, and you'll find out why.
It did. It did, and we're going to talk about that later, too.
Begging for an interception because I know it's the only way that points will be scored.
Yep, we're going to talk about that coming up later. I'm telling you right now, I tried to tell you last week, there is a different energy around Notre Dame without Brian Kelly there. Marcus Freeman has these kids believing, all right? Notre Dame's good. Notre Dame will beat the Clemson team that played last night. Miami will beat the Clemson team that played last night. It's week 1, so we don't really have a great feel for all the teams. But Louisville lost to Syracuse. I don't think they're a threat anymore. Florida State only beat LSU because LSU kept punching themselves in their own South Pole, if you get what I'm saying. Notre Dame will beat that team. Clemson will beat that team. I will not say that South Carolina showed me enough against Georgia State. I will say right now, Georgia State came into that game with a lot of gas and a coach who knows that Carolina program. I'm not ready to say South Carolina can or cannot beat Clemson. NC State looked bad in their opening game. But again, as every coach will tell you, the most improvement that you will see from a college football team is between week 1 and 2, right? You'll see improvement in the offseason. You'll see improvement throughout the season. But the biggest spike in improvement you're going to see is between week 1 and week 2. And that includes Clemson. It does. You got to think about where DJ came from. DJ just came from an offseason where he was reminded constantly, hey, bro, you were the worst quarterback in the ACC last year. The worst quarterback statistically in the ACC last year. You think he didn't have some nerves in that game to start last night? And Georgia Tech was full gas attack. They had nothing to lose, right? And everything to gain. Full out attack from Georgia Tech. Here's what I took away from that game. The offensive line has to be better than it was. The wide receivers, Bo Collins included, you got to catch the football when DJ puts it in the hands. How many drops do you think they had last night, Lonzo? 4, 5, 6?
At least, yeah. And it wasn't like it was thrown behind them or things. I mean, they should have caught those balls.
Yeah. I mean, 4, 5, 6. That hit them right in the hands. Right in the hands. And they put it on the turf, right? DJ was hitting guys with good throws and then putting it on the turf. DJ deserved to have better than 209 yards passing. He should have been about, I'm not kidding, 315. But they dropped a bunch. O-line's got to get better. Wide receivers got to get better. Play calling's got to get better. Right? Now, the good news for Clemson is the next 2 weeks are really good opportunities to clean that up. With all due respect to our Furman Paladins, next week is a practice game. It's an exhibition for the Tigers. I want to see the play calling be better. Right? Don't be conservative. Attack, but attack intelligently. I want to see the wide receivers taking advantage of their dominance and catching the football. And the offensive line, I need helmet stickers for everybody next week. I need everybody dominating the D-line against Furman next week. And then they get another one against La Tech. A little bit of a step up from Furman. Then they got Wake. Then they got NC State back-to-back. All I can say is there's about 4 elements of the game that Clemson really needs to work on. O-line, pass catching, play calling, and overall mental fortitude. Because there were a couple of spots where Georgia Tech would reel off a big play, and you just kind of felt like Clemson, like the air came out of the Tiger defense a little bit.
You know, there's one thing that can't be fixed in all that. The play calling. You're not going to fix that.
You don't think so?
How do they fix that? Who fixes that?
Well, for the credit that we love to give guys in week 1 about, you know, it's nerves, it's jitters, it's this, it's that. I think that you've got to give a little bit of leeway to the new coordinators, right? You got to give Brandon Streeter, specifically the offensive play calling. I certainly think that there were some defensive issues.
The defense lacked intensity that they would have under Venables. I mean, it's hard to not be intense when you see the guy having to be held back on the sidelines. I know it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not. There was some lack of intensity for sure. But as far as fixing the offensive play calling, does Dabo take over play calling? Does that fix it? Because it doesn't. How did they fix the play calling? This is who they chose.
Here's the thing. Wes and Brandon were in their first games in not just in coordinator roles, but in coordinator roles where they've got big damn shoes to fill, right? Real big shoes to fill in Brent Venables and Tony Elliott. There were some jitters there for those guys too. Question is, will they be worked out by week 2? When we come back, we'll finish up that conversation, talk a little Clemson ball. We will open hour number 2, talking about the South Carolina-Georgia State game. Then we'll wrap up hour number 2, going up and down the rest of the college football scoreboard. We will reveal to you who lost the week 1 edition of the Boo Box Bets. And I will tell you that punishment gets drawn tomorrow because I did not give myself enough time yesterday before the Clemson game to put those together. But we'll tell you who did lose and who's drawing the box tomorrow. Coming up at 11:20, Dave Schultz of WNSP Mobile is going to be joining us here on the show. We'll talk a little college football with him. And somewhere in all of that, we'll try to fit in faces and heels. What a Tuesday, baby. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate.
Technologies. The Dell Technologies Labor Day event is here. Start a season of productivity with up to 48% off Vostro laptops with 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Upgrade by calling 877-ASK-DELL.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios.
I'm sure he'll get around to that.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios,
No, we tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
but you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
I don't know, Stephen. He's saying a pretty good variety of music there. Hit several different genres.
Means we're obligated to act in our clients' best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structure, so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for
I'm surprised he has a voice because, you know,
Because our priority is helping
tends to go all out in everything.
That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly, different money management.
investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Whether it's a bad kick, nagging back pain, or a hip that has you hobbling, nothing matters more than getting you back to feeling your best. As South Carolina's most preferred orthopedic provider and official team doctor for the Gamecocks and Tigers, Prisma Health provides all the care you need.
If you can get that trending, then you have magic. That's the only way you get that trending.
What's that? Doors for the natty.
Weird things have trended, so I mean, I guess it's a possibility, but probably not. QC Connects in the next break.
10-4.
Even general education classes that transfer to a four-year college are free. Online classes also free. Head to sccSC.edu. Find your program for free, register for free, take classes for free. Now relax for free.
So during your foray into the karaoke, what was the worst song? Or do you not want to say because then
Because it was me. There was a group of dudes. Once we were like, you know what, just open it up to the whole bar so we can have more people up there besides just like the same three people rotating up over and over. There was a group of dudes, and it was a very get off my lawn moment. Because they were all young, in shape, cool guys, right? Like 24, 25 muscles, like I used to be many moons ago. And they came up and sang some song from High School Musical, which I didn't know. And the bar popped for it, but it was so bad. Like they were just screaming the words into the mic. And like I held myself back because my next thought was, all right, I'm about to go do an OG Disney song and bring these punks into the golden age of Disney, right? Little Under the Sea action or something. I didn't do it because I also remember me at that age, and it would have been viewed as a direct challenge, and then it would have just been two group karaoke, me versus them, and an endless loop of bad Disney renditions. So I held off on it. And then for the stream, my girlfriend got on stage and sang Fantasy by Ludacris. If you want to blush, read the lyrics of that song and then think about your girlfriend singing it to a bar. Pretty spectacular. Here we go, putting a bow on hour number 1. During the break, went out to the restroom and was talking with Lee from our sister station, WRD. He's like, dude, everything you just said is correct. Everything you just said is right. I'm like, yeah, I know. Because I'm an egomaniacal jerk. No, it's Lonzo. What's the nerve factor for Clemson that some of the problems, offensive line being a huge part of it. What's the panic level that some of the problems, offensive line and wide receivers dropping the football, that were arguably the problems last year, were one game deep, but so far they are the problems this year too. Is that something for Clemson fans to panic over?
It should be, but instead they've decided to focus all their ire, all their hate, all their whatever towards DJ instead of looking around and seeing that you have more problems than that. And, in the end, you won the game. You did what you were supposed to do and won convincingly. I mean, but you still want to blame that guy when that guy, was he a little nervous? Yeah, but he does have a lot of pressure, as you pointed out, because everywhere he goes outside of Clemson, he is, pretty much told that he is not the guy and should not be the guy.
I agree. In fact, I said that. So I was sitting last night with P1 Joey B was out there. Stax was there. A couple other folks were there. Chris was there. A couple other folks from the Riot Club. And there was a drop in the end zone that I thought DJ threw a dime. Drop in the end zone. And the Clemson fans around me were like, oh, this guy's got to throw that more to the inside. I'm like, it's a 45-yard pass. He put it right on top of his friggin' helmet. Like, dude, any better of a pass, and it would have been a top 10 play of the week. It's as good as it could have been done for a guy who was getting attacked by Georgia Tech's defensive line behind an OL that very clearly was struggling, right? And I'm like, that's a wide receiver dropping a ball that has to be caught. That's what that is. The ball has to be caught. That's a touchdown. Has to be caught. And the Clemson fans around me are like, DJ. DJ. I'm like, dudes, I get it. I understand. But you're blaming the wrong dude, man. Right? It's like there's a lot of Clemson fans that I saw, I heard, I listened to, I interacted with last night that, the defense missed the tackle and it was DJ's fault somehow. I'm glad Lonzo said what he said. I asked Lonzo before we went on the air, I'm like, hey, man, what'd you think of DJ last night? He's like, I'll save it for on the air. And I'm glad he did because we're on the same page. Was DJ perfect? No, he wasn't perfect. But it was week one. And I know he had a lot of starts. But I'm looking at DJ as if this is his first year, right? It's not, but I'm looking at him like it is because he spent an entire offseason getting told how much he sucked. You don't think that'll tear down a dude? Now he's rebuilding that dude. It's not all on him. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-FANFONE, 844-326-3663. Text us 71307. Start your text with FAN. Back after this for hour 2 of the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
QC.
All right, kids, we're back. Thanks for hanging out. Let's see what you guys got in the chat for me.
Who's Petey Pablo?
He was a rapper / artist from when I was in college. Who am I? Let's see. Let me scroll up a little bit, see what we got here. This whole weekend was on drugs. ECU, that App State and UNC game was nuts as well. Really was. Really was.
I'm just curious, did Diesel enjoy that game? I mean, how can you enjoy that game with, I mean, I realize your team scored a lot of points and they still lost. Is that the kind of game that I'd rather, that many points and you still lost?
James said only CM Punk can deliver a promo like heel Lorenzo. I got to tell you, I'm kind of on the Splitsville with CM Punk right now. What a jackass move.
Don't.
I'll save it. No, we have. I'm bringing it up. You might as well leave it on.
No, I mean, because I can just mark it off.
No, don't. Cade could have a Heisman to go with that natty.
Would it be his, though? I don't know.
Trey said I drove a 9-passenger van to the Georgia-Oregon game. I didn't know. Dragon Con is always Labor Day weekend, which I'm sure having it the same weekend as Georgia-Oregon was an absolute boat show.
I still ain't got to go to Dragon Con. We talked about Saturday night. I keep forgetting when it is, and it's like, yeah.
It never works out for me because it's always the opening weekend of college football / Courtney's birthday weekend. So it's like I'm never going to get to go.
Yeah, it starts like on a Friday, doesn't it?
Can I say this? And Skrilla, I say this with all the love in the world. If there's anything worse than Georgia fans barking at people, I don't know what it is. Mississippi State's cowbell is less annoying than grown-ass men barking at other men.
Well, I would say Big Papa Pump would, and his brother would have words with you. So would the nephew and the son, Braun Breaker. You know.
Roger said, notice a lot of DJ's balls. He didn't have fingers on laces and those balls wobble through the air. He had a couple of, but again, I think DJ changed his throwing mechanics a little bit because you know what I did see on the ball last night? Float, finesse. It wasn't just rifle shots everywhere.
Prism in the first break.
How did I know Rob would sing a boy band song at karaoke? I give the people what they want, Steven. I give the people.
I thought you just did a backup on that, though. I didn't think you were. Yeah, so I mean,
But it was like the important part. The "Tell Me Why," like that.
That is the
song.
Yeah, it does.
Without that, it's not the same song.
You're right.
Welcome back, our numero dos to the Rob Brown Show. Gets started right now. This is the Fan Upstate. What up, y'all? How's life? How's everybody? Y'all feeling good? After a 3-day weekend of college football? You better be, because that was awesome. That whole weekend was hype. I mean, what didn't you enjoy about week 1 college football? Thursday night, open with some bangers. Saturday was full of bangers. I mean, everything about week 1 in college football, well, week 0 through week 1, so long week 1, everything about it was good. Nebraska Northwestern was good. Utah State UConn was good. You know what? Let's just skip to the good ones. Carolina Northern version taking on Appalachian State. That game was on drugs.
How is that a good one, though? I mean, it's not if you're North Carolina.
Not. It was wild.
It's not if you're North Carolina because
No.
you should not be struggling with what is considered a lesser team.
No, I'm not saying it's good for them. I'm saying just for football, that game was fun.
For football itself, yeah, but
that game was a blast. It comes down to the end where you've got Carolina up 56-49. Will we have 4 touchdowns in the last 45 seconds of that game? It was unreal. App State scores with 2:50 left to play. 56-49. App State scores again, 63-55. App State gets within 61-63, but overshoots the 2-point conversion by, inches to make it 63-63 in an OT game that was in the 60s in regulation. That game was certified insanity, man. That game was great. Florida State LSU. What was that? What was that? By the way, FSU fans, chill, bruh. Relax. You are not back after that game. In fact, I was on social media, and I saw, I got a bunch of FSU folks on my timeline from when I broadcasted down in Florida. And FSU fans were like, we're back, baby! I would argue FSU turned a corner, but to say they're back is ridiculous. LSU choked the hell out of that game.
See, I get what you're saying, but I think you're being overly critical of Florida State. I thought for the first time in a long time, they look like they are heading on their way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
I agree with that. They look confident.
There wasn't a bunch of false bravado, like, look at us, we it kind of thing.
Yeah.
They actually got out there and they played.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Jordan Travis, 20, 33, 260, a pair of touchdowns. And outside of Jaden Daniels, they held Daniels to 26-35 and 2 touches, which is a good night. Jaden Daniels ran for a $114. You know what the next closest leading rusher was for LSU? Noah Kane had 23. Jaden Daniels ran all over FSU's offense or defense. Couldn't do anything. The guy was out of his mind running the football. And don't tell me, he ran because he couldn't throw. Threw for 209 and a pair of touches. He was running all over the place.
How you think the family's doing this morning?
Family!
How they doing?
I came down here with my family. You know how he's doing? I can tell you exactly how Brian Kelly's doing. I didn't have time to pull the audio this morning. And it was, I had to go dig for it, and I just couldn't find it before the show. But Brian Kelly in the post-game presser, they're like, Coach, what went wrong tonight? You know what his first instinct was? You know what the first thing he did was? Well, our kids didn't tackle well enough. Oh, it's all on them. Got it. Hey, Brian, whose fault is that? Like a minute and a half later, he's like, and we got to coach better.
I am just curious.
Player. And also, we got to coach better.
Who thought that Brian Kelly being back would equate to LSU being back the very first year?
A lot of LSU fans.
No, that's just, there's some things that need to be fixed there.
And let me put it this way. I grew up in Louisiana around LSU fans. There's a soft spot in my heart for LSU because that's where most of my family went, right? I haven't held that back from you guys. Soft spot in my family in my heart for LSU because that's where most of my family went. Here's the thing. LSU fans genuinely and entirely, Lonzo, are the Clemson, everything you think Clemson fans are, LSU fans are worse. They genuinely are.
I take issue with you saying think. It's no. Continue.
Everything that Lonzo thinks of Clemson fans is true about LSU fans. Like when Brian Kelly got hired, I was like, oh, this is going to be entertaining as hell. And 1 week in, it sure enough is. As if remember when Brian Kelly had and I hate to be macabre and morbid. Remember when the intern died at Notre Dame practice when Brian Kelly was there? Do you remember what Brian Kelly did after that kid got blown out of a filming tower that he wasn't supposed to be in high winds? Brian Kelly resumed practice. Hey guys, listen, I know that a kid just died, but we got to get better. We got to practice. Get back out there. Ignore the fallen over wind tower that kid just died in. Get back out there. And what is the first thing Brian Kelly does after his team blows one to Florida State? The players got to play better. Players got to play better. And I guess I need to coach better. But the players got to play better. Hilarious.
I'm not defending him, but he's right. They do. I mean, you got to play better in order to win.
Yeah, right. But as I used to have to tell my old man when he couldn't figure out sometimes why the kids or the mom was mad at him, Dad, it's not always about what you say. It's about how you say it, right? Brian Kelly was like, where's that bus? Got about 85 players I want to throw under it before I throw myself under it. And you could see at the end of that game, the LSU fans thought, we're going to cakewalk this. I was absolutely scrolling message boards on Saturday during the day. Because after hiking for about 11 hours on Saturday, your boy's legs didn't work on Sunday because I'm fat and out of shape. So I'm reading message boards on like Reddit, and LSU fans are like, we going to win this thing by 40. Brian Kelly's a real deal. Brian Kelly, Lonzo, during that game, was the most miserable looking individual on the face of the planet. I have seen dudes who have just put their dog down who had more joy on their face than Brian Kelly did during that game, even when his team was climbing back into striking distance.
And
am I wrong?
The cameraman made sure they showed him as much as they possibly could.
And over.
The expression seemed to be the same every single time.
It really did. It really did. Brian Kelly looked miserable. And it was hilarious, man. It was hilarious. Dude just looked absolutely miserable. And I loved it. I loved it. The more they showed Brian Kelly and LSU fans hitting the surrender cobra, which, by the way, can I just go ahead and say how happy I am that the surrender cobra got mentioned on air. Because I'm tired of answering the question, Rob, what's a surrender cobra? It has now been mentioned on the only college football game on Sunday night, and a banger of a college football game at that. The surrender cobra is real.
All right, so someone in this room must have missed that explanation because I don't know what that is.
Oh, the surrender cobra. When college football, well, when sports fans, when something happens to a sports fan, they're like, the moment that something happens and you know you've lost the game, right? Like when LSU's punt returner muffed his second punt of the night, and Florida State, who at that point was about to give the ball back to LSU down 7 with like 3 minutes left to play, recovers the ball on the 5 going in, which means what? Punch it into the end zone, this game's over. Right? Or kneel it on down to 45, 50 seconds, kick the field goal, and make them work for 10. When they muffed it and FSU came up with the ball and they went to the crowd, and it's when you lock your fingers behind your head and you rest your hands on the back of your head so that both of your elbows stick out to the side.
All right.
The universal sign of, oh my God.
I get it now.
Cobra.
I get it now because now I have visions of how much I hate that thing, because in wrestling, if head coach Lenny Ball, who won like 30, 40 city championships, if he sat back and the coaches would sit on the edges of the mats.
Yeah.
If he sat back and put his hands like
Surrender
that,
Cobra.
it meant he thought you, and nothing ticked you off worse than to look over and see him do that, because he didn't believe in you.
Surrender cobra.
He believes that you're done.
Yeah, the surrender cobra.
And he was usually right,
I
unfortunately.
I give up with this situation.
Yeah, this thing's over. Okay, I get it now. I get it.
The surrender cobra can happen anywhere. right?
I had never heard it called that
Yeah,
before.
surrender cobra can happen anywhere. Surrender cobra can happen in an office, right? Like you're sitting there and you give your presentation, you give your pitch, right? You're like, hey, boss, we can increase productivity 13% by enacting this, and this measure. And the boss goes, I appreciate the effort there, Mr. Reitzel, but I don't think we're going to implement that measure that you spent 6 months putting together. And you just sit back in the chair and out comes the surrender cobra, right? But in sports, the appearance of the surrender cobra in the wild means something crazy just happened.
All right, I can't associate with that last thing because all my ideas are looked for, sought after, and appreciated.
Correct, but you get it. The surrender cobra. Anyway, they brought up the surrender cobra on the broadcast, and I was so happy about it. The internet football community has made it to the big time. Anyway, Texter says, Rob, as an FSU fan, that game was epic, but no, we're not back. You are correct. Yeah, no, you're not. You're not back.
Yeah, but are you on your way back?
I think it's fair to say FSU turned a corner because that's a game that traditionally FSU farts away. And by the way, they tried, right? Because, Lonzo, I'm not an offensive coordinator, but there's a couple of rules in football that you follow as an offensive coordinator. There's a lot of so Lonzo and I both do a lot of artsy stuff, play guitar, into photography, etc. And one thing that you will hear very often in when you're doing art, and I consider football art, right? Calling offense is an art. One thing you get told anytime that you're doing art is that you have to learn every rule. Why do you have to learn every rule? So that you can know when and why to break them, right? Like in photography, you learn about leading lines and the rule of thirds. Why do you learn those? Is it because in every picture you need a leading line? In every picture you have to divide your picture into chunks of thirds? No. It's because most of the time you do, but sometimes you can create a stunning picture by breaking that rule because we're so used to seeing. Go look at any photograph go look at Nat Geo and look at any photograph. Most of the time you're going to see some sort of line. And it may not be like a bold, painted line, but the horizon forms a line, or an arch might form a line, or the sight line of an animal is a line, and it leads you to the focus of the photo. Go look at any Nat Geo picture, and you will see when you take a picture of a landscape, you'll see the rule of third. Like the top third is the sky, the second third is the ground, and the last third is like a feature in the foreground or whatever. But then sometimes you break those rules because you're so used to seeing that a break from those rules is good. It's like that playing, it's like that calling an offense. But there are some rules you just do not break, right? One of them, Lonzo, is if you have the ball on the one going in, don't put it in the air in the backfield. Don't pitch it. Just hand it off. Just hand it off, right? Because if you pitch the ball into the air and a D lineman busts through, he can knock that thing down. He can hit the running back before the ball gets to him. He can hit the quarterback as the quarterback's letting go and change it. There's 100 things that can go wrong if you pitch the ball. And what did Florida State do? They broke the cardinal rule of inside the 1 yard line on offense. They put the ball in the air. And what happened? They fumbled it. LSU picked it up. Had to go 99 yards in a minute and 17 seconds to score? What'd they do? Went 99 yards in a minute and 17 seconds to score. Got it down to the one, had .01 on the clock, and threw a touchdown pass. Fortunately for the Noles, they were able to block the XP for the second time in that game, right? And that was the difference. But what percentage of PATs get blocked, Lonzo? 1? Maybe? Like a liberal guess of 1%?
I would go less than 1%. Yeah.
a liberal guess of 1%
Although
of PATs get blocked.
This past weekend, there are a lot of
There
block-
really were.
Yeah.
Florida State had that one. FSU tried to give that game away. You know what the corner was turned for FSU? They went from farted a game away to really, really tried but was unsuccessful in farting that game away. FSU's not back. They're not. Wake could snipe FSU. NC State could snipe FSU. I will tell you right now, and that's not saying we'll win. Those are interesting games. I'll tell you right now, Lonzo. If first quarter Clemson goes down to Tallahassee and plays that way, FSU could beat Clemson. Clemson's going to be favored in that game. I'm a call right now. The opening line on that game, Clemson by 7.5. But
Clemson probably is going to be favored in every game, except for maybe Notre Dame, depending on what Notre Dame does going
between here and
forward.
there.
Yeah.
And maybe Miami, depending on what Clemson and Miami do. But Florida State turned a corner from screwed it up to tried really hard to screw it up and somehow still won. But as bad as they've been, that's still a win. Absolutely still a win.
I don't know about you. I'm okay with Lucky.
I mean,
Lucky's all right with me.
hey, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. FSU should try being good before they rely on being lucky, though. All right? Let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, I think it's time. Let's talk South Carolina football. They get the win over Georgia State. And I have seen a lot of y'all dismissing that win, right? Oh, D2 team. Not a great win. Not a great win. Not a great win. I'm not saying it was a great win by any stretch of the imagination. It was not a great win. But it's the win they needed in the style that they needed it. So let's talk about that when we come back. Rob Lonzo, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate.
Prisma.
We're at Backstream, live read. All right, we're back. What up, stream?
I'm glad we're back because I saved this. I just happened to click on something that said, September's Xbox games for Game Pass. And there's a game on here that Rob Brown, it was made for him. Absolutely made for him. It's called You Suck at Parking.
What?
It will be on Game Pass September 14th. So next week, you'll be able to play a game called You Suck at Parking.
It's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's wild. I'm looking at it right now. That's a hilarious thing.
Went to get breakfast yesterday, and of course, I was waiting for my wife to come out. And a huge truck backs in next to me because it always happens no matter where I park. And then another one came right beside me. There were parking spots on either side, and this. I get the car as a draw to a certain degree, but I can't see. So you have to inch yourself out, and this truck is like 10 feet tall. It's like a monster truck next to me. And we discussed, did this happen when I was driving my Ford, whatever that was? I don't even remember what it was. And no, it did not. And neither one of those people who parked next to me parked really well. So it made it very difficult.
So I am playing in a charity softball game on October 15th, and that's the motivation I needed to find to get back in shape.
Charity for what?
The South Carolina Youth Diabetes Association.
Oh, that's cool.
So I don't want to go out there and embarrass myself. So I'm like, I have until October 15th. I have just over a month to get back into beer league softball shape.
Yeah, that's not. That's.
Yeah, I'm not setting it like softball shape.
Yeah,
it's beer league softball.
Yeah, it's
shape.
kind of in shape. Do they have limits on home runs? Do they become outs after a certain time and all that kind of stuff?
Yet. Doesn't matter. I was never a power slugger. I'm a direction hitter in softball. I can tell you where I'm going to hit the ball, and it's not over the fence. That doesn't mean I won't try.
Chicks dig the long ball, Rob.
You know what Cody told me Saturday? Because I was texting him about this back and forth. We didn't have a show, so we were just kind of texting back and forth. And I was like, because he played in one in Chicago not so long ago. And he went 4 for 4 with 3 home runs and a triple. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And he goes,
that's Stroman numbers right there.
He goes, be glad we don't have a show. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because I know what the next bet punishment would have been. And I was like, what's that? He goes, you'd have had to bat left-handed in that game without telling anybody that you're right-handed. I know. I'm like, that's evil, dude. That's evil. So, last Saturday was the last Saturday for Bet for the Cycle. And on Saturday, since we didn't have a show, Cody Decker, myself, and Hayden Ass Mario, who you guys have been introduced to, we're texting back and forth. And I told Cody I've been invited to play in the South Carolina Youth Diabetes Association charity celebrity softball game in October, which I'm going to do. And I was like, I was telling him, I was like, I got to get in shape. Like, I was asking Cody, who's a professional baseball player, what are your 3 or 4 top exercises for getting in power hitting shape? Like, I don't want to go out there and embarrass myself. I want to mash. I want to rake. Give me your top 3 or 4 exercises you do for power from the plate. And he tells me what they are, and we're talking about them. And he says, be glad we're off the air. I'm like, why? He goes, because I know what the next bet punishment would have been for you. It would have been you have to bat left-handed in that charity celebrity softball game and not tell anybody that you're right-handed.
Still a little shocked that you're not versatile enough to hit from either side of the plate.
No. Listen, hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. You pick up a bat and try to say, in fact, during the break, grab one of those mini bats and take a left-handed cut. See how you feel.
Oh, I didn't say that I could do it.
Yeah.
I'm just shocked that you can't.
All right, let's talk a little South Carolina football, shall we? As they get a 35-14 win over Georgia State. Spencer Rattler, 23 of 37, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and a QBR of 28.6. And yet, Lonzo,
That's not very good.
it's not very good. And yet, I'm not really all that disappointed, right? Like, I'm not really all that disappointed. It's not great. It's not a great look if you look at paper, right? If you look at paper. To watch the game itself, to watch Spencer Rattler himself in this game, I was not crazy disappointed about it, right? I thought Spencer showed what he brings to the table. I thought he was versatile in the pocket. You know, we talked about Clemson's offensive line problems, Lonzo. South Carolina's got the same problem. The offensive line for the Gamecocks was improved, but it was not good. They were allowing upfield pressure. They were taking away escape routes from Spencer Rattler. This is not absolving Spencer Rattler of the handful of mistakes that he made. It is saying that the offensive line is going to have to get better. They don't have an option. I think that offensively, they showed that they've got some versatility. 39 yards rushing for Jaheim Bell, 30 for Marshawn Lloyd, 14 for Juju McDowell. They had, I think 5 different receivers get into double digits, including a couple of running backs. Actually, I think all 3 running backs. Jalen Brooks, 4 grabs, 88 yards, including a 39-yarder. Antoine Wells Jr., 7 snags, 55 yards. They showed some versatility, but the problem is you can't, with the way that offensive line was playing, you can't really run plays that take a minute to develop, right? You got to run quick plays. It's really not all that convoluted. You got to get better across the front 4. Well, front 5. You got to get better across the front 5. You are on the road at Arkansas this week. Again, week 1 to week 2 is going to be the biggest jump in progress you see out of every team. Lonzo, the Arkansas team that beat Cincinnati will beat the South Carolina team that beat Georgia State. No question.
Is that a guarantee?
As of today, yes.
Okay.
As of today, yes. South Carolina's losing this weekend. The good news for the Gamecocks is that I can give them a little bit of credit, okay? I can give them a little bit of credit in that this is a good little Georgia State team. By the way, Gamecocks right now, today, Lonzo, 8.5 points underdog to Arkansas. 8.5 points.
That's it?
I mean,
isn't that kind of low?
Honestly, I'd have set it at 9.5. I'd have set it at 9.5. And listen, it's a top 20 team, all right? It's a top 20 team or the Razorbacks. And Arkansas is a tough place to play. Really tough place to play. Underappreciated in how tough it is to play at Arkansas. But with that offensive line versus what the Hogs put in the trench defensively, Spencer's going to be running for his life against Arkansas. Here's the thing. I don't care how good your quarterback is. I don't care how good your running backs are. If your offensive line is Swiss cheese, they're in trouble. All right? Now, again, you have a Georgia State head coach who used to be part of the South Carolina program. He knows it well. You got a Georgia State team that's pretty good, right? They're not Arkansas good, but they're pretty good. You got a Georgia State team that has every reason to give you their best shot. And it's week 1 with a new quarterback, running a new offense, under new coaches and new coordinators. I got a little bit of leeway. That's why I'm not wildly upset about the win. I'm not wildly upset about a 35-14 win. Granted, it took a little bit longer for them to get the 35-14 tally that I wanted. But it is what it is. On Sunday, in his media availability teleconference, Shane Beamer said, "We all had a hand in it," end quote, regarding the room for improvement offensively. Let's call it that. The offensive line got beat up last year. They got beat up in week 1. Beamer said it's too early to react. But I'll give you one thing that I do like. The culture change is real in Columbia. Why? How do I know that? Because there were a few dudes on the offense at skill positions that immediately stepped up to defend those guys. Marshawn Lloyd said, quote, "Chill on my offensive line. I usually don't do this, but I'm tired of hearing this about them. Them boys work hard. Don't be a fan later. We will be straight. I promise you that." Spencer Rattler replied to that tweet and said, quote, "Amen. Love them guys. We'll be just fine." South Carolina, Lonzo, managed a grand total of 79 yards rushing. You add in Spencer Rattler, who had, what, minus 12? And you're looking at, what, 91 total yards rushing against Georgia State? That's not good enough. It's not good enough.
The thing is, do you expect South Carolina to blow anybody out this year? I expect them, when they win, to barely win. I mean, if you expect otherwise, I don't get it. I don't get what you saw. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about collectively.
I expect them to blow out Charlotte. I expect them to blow out SC State.
For the same reasons.
There's nobody I expect them to blow out. By the way, at Florida looks like it's going to suck now.
Maybe. For the same reasons last hour we talked about DJ being nervous. It's the first game. And you're going to get some of those jitters, especially the first half of the first game. Then you pull things together during halftime, and you get down to playing football like you're probably going to play the rest of the season. The games they win, other than maybe Charlotte, they're probably not going to blow anybody out.
Charlotte and SC State
winning by a point is still winning. So
I don't disagree. But there are some games that I'm less confident about, right? I thought at home versus Missouri should be a win. I think it's a fight now. On the road at Vanderbilt, after Vanderbilt put up 63 on Hawaii, I'm concerned about that game. 2 weeks ago, said Zoe, I thought South Carolina had the possibility, not probability, possibility of 8-4.
So
now I'm thinking 6-6 is reasonable.
So they lost that first game then. So that's why you're saying that, right? So South Carolina lost Saturday.
There is a massive difference between they won and they won. They won. They grinded down a team with fewer athletes. Well, I'm talking about big playmakers. They grinded down a team with fewer playmakers. Yeah, 79 yards of rushing offense against Georgia State. Is Missouri's defensive line better than Georgia State? Yup. Is Kentucky's? Yup. Is Tennessee's? Yup. Is Vanderbilt's? Probably. Right? If they finish this game 35-14, but Rattler is at 227, 3 touches to 1 pick, and they rush for $150, I feel dramatically better about it. But 79 yards rushing against Georgia State, what are they going to do on the ground against Mizzou? Vandy. Tennessee, right? I said 8-4 was possible, not probable, but possible. That was including an upset against Kentucky on the road. I don't think they can win that game right now. Right now. I'm not saying that will change or that won't change, but right now, South Carolina we saw against Georgia State cannot beat Kentucky on the road. That was with a home win against Mizzou. That's a ball game to me now. That was with a road win at Vandy. That's a ball game right now. Lonzo, you watch Florida, Utah. We both got that pick wrong. Can that Florida team beat the South Carolina team we saw play on Saturday night? To me, they sure can. Anthony Richardson's a monster.
As of right now, yes.
You're damn right, yes. So that one's off the table. Can South Carolina, would you bet on them to beat Tennessee right now? I certainly would not.
It's Tennessee. Yeah, I probably would.
Not me. And then Clemson at the end of the year.
I mean, I'd be very good at betting. So, I mean,
I only got you by one.
Shh. You hadn't revealed that yet.
Look. Here's what I saw out of the Gamecocks. I saw, number one, a home field advantage that was good. Those lights, the sound. I had friends at the game who sent me some video. That stadium looked like it was rocking with a capital rock. It looked like that team, that stadium was absolutely banging on Saturday night. But I saw an offensive line that was porous. That's a problem. I saw a run game that could not get much momentum going. That's a problem. Defensively, I thought they were okay. They held Granger to 7 of 29 for a $111, a touch and a pick. And they held Jameis Williams to 76 yards. But they did give up, Lonzo, 200 yards of rushing offense to Georgia State. 200. That's what Georgia State does. They run the ball. They run the ball a lot. But they did throw 79 times and ran it 40. That's too many plays. This team's going to struggle against Kentucky, against Tennessee, against Missouri. They're going to lose to Florida. They're going to struggle with Vandy. They're going to lose to Clemson. They're going to lose to Arkansas, and they're going to get hammered by Georgia. The team I saw last night is going to fight to 6-6. Sorry, Saturday night is going to fight to 6-6. Will we see improvement this week against Arkansas? You better damn well hope so, Gamecocks fans. You better hope so. Take a break. Back after this to wrap up hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. All right, let's watch this clip you sent.
That's the shorter version of it.
A 15-year-old dropping a 22-year-old Clemson frat dude at the game.
Yeah, it's everywhere. There's a longer version. There's a version where you actually see the confrontation before it happens.
Oh!
It's not done yet. Just wait.
Ground and pound!
So that scuffle to me was someone picking a fight with Hook. The kid's, I mean, he's actually dressed kind of like,
We were talking about fighting last night at the bar.
So was there about to actually be a fight, okay,
no,
all
not
right.
at all. We just got. Oh, we were talking about. Wrestling. Joe and I were. Joe's the one that went to the AEW show with us.
Right.
So we're talking about wrestling, and we were talking about how it's okay. It not just okay. It's good to have a storyline of. There doesn't need to be a storyline. Sometimes one wrestler just needs to say, I'm a wrestler and I believe I'm better than that wrestler and I should beat him, right? And we got to talking about like how I like storylines grounded in real life. Like the Rollins Riddle lead up to Clash of the Castle was amazing because of that one segment they did. And Joe said, I told Joe, like, I've never been in a fight in my life. And he asked why. And I was like, because you don't know what another human being is capable of, right? If they feel threatened, you don't know. And I'm not going to throw hands unless there's just no other way around it, because I never know. Like, I have known some skinny, dorky dudes who were like black belts in jiu-jitsu and could beat the hell out of you, and you never know what happened. And I feel like this happened to that cat, right? He's like, he saw this kid, and he's like, I can whip that dude. And then he just took a knuckle sandwich to the dome.
Well, if you want, there's, like I said, there's an extended thing with audio, so you can hear that there's a back and forth for a little bit. This wasn't just like boom.
Right.
They were jawing
Yeah.
a little bit before it happened. This is the Dragon Ball Z Kai version, where they cut out all the story and just put the fighting in there. I'm sure the dude who got his face beat in said he was drunk, and he wasn't. If he was sober, that wouldn't have ever happened. Or he, realized it was a kid after he threw a couple punches. And there's excuses. He's lucky they were not out in the open. That kid would have beat him up a whole lot worse if he had a little more room. The way that kid was fighting, he had some MMA stuff going there. Wouldn't shock me if he didn't have some training.
Let me tell you one thing I did see, one thing that I did love. And for the record, this is only going to go so far. But Shane Beamer, after South Carolina played Beamer ball and blocked not one but 2 punts, Shane Beamer looked like a wild man on the sideline, right? He was getting hype over some Beamer ball. And I think that's good, right? You want the kids involved in that aspect of the game to feel like their efforts are appreciated, right? A lot of coaches see a blocked punt, and what do? They start talking to the offense. This. We're doing this. We're doing that. Beamer was running around on the field, jumping up and down and dancing like a madman. That's good. I want those kids to see that, to recognize that their efforts are appreciated by the head ball coach. I like that. But as somebody who's seen this happen at other campuses before, when it comes down to it, you can have the greatest culture builder in the world. If the team's not getting better, it doesn't matter, right? If you go 6-6 this year, South Carolina, I think Shane Beamer sticks around. No doubt about it. It's not a super easy schedule for the Gamecocks. But if you go 6-6 again next year, all the culture in the world doesn't matter. Right? Fans don't care if you have a Bill Belichickian culture or a Mike Tomlinian culture. They want wins. And you got the win. You beat Georgia State. Again, I think it deserves a little bit more credit than a lot of people are giving South Carolina for that win. It's not a bad Georgia State team. That Georgia State team could pick off a lot of lower-level FCS schools. That Georgia State team could fight Vanderbilt. That Georgia State team could fight Duke and win, honestly. Could pick off a lot of lower-level FCS schools. That being said, it took too long to put them away. You gave up way too much offense. 200 yards rushing. They average 5 yards a carry. It's too much. You know what South Carolina averaged per carry? 2.5 yards. That's not good enough. They ran 29 passing plays to your 37. They ran 40 rushing plays to your 32. It's too much. The culture's great. I love everything about what Beamer is doing. I like the enthusiasm. I like the incitement. I like the hype that's going to get the boys ready to play. I like all of it. But the problems at the end of last year, and by the way, before you Gamecocks fans take this personally, I literally said the same thing about Dabo in the last hour. What stood out to me about Clemson in game 1 last night against Georgia Tech is the same thing that stood out to me about South Carolina in game 1 against Georgia State. The problems that bothered those two teams this weekend were the same problems they had last year. Same problems. For Clemson, it was wide receiver drops and an offensive line that did not give time for DJ to establish a rhythm. With South Carolina, it was an offensive line that was too porous and the inability to establish a run game that opened up the field. That was my biggest problem, right? Those were the problems last year for those two teams, and those were the two problems to lead off this year for those two teams. Is Clemson better than they were last year? I'm going to say yes. Because DJU looked better. Because they got versatility at the running back position. But the problems are still the problems. Lonzo, I can say Clemson is better this year than last year. Doesn't mean they're a playoff team, but better this year than last year. Can I say the same thing about South Carolina after 1 week?
All right, I disagree about Clemson.
Really?
I agree that DJ is better, but they've dropped off in some other places. As far as Carolina goes, I think the sample size is too small.
Well, if the sample size is too small for South Carolina, why is it not too small for Clemson?
Because with Clemson, we saw DJ for an entire season, and I specifically pointed him out, not other things. Other things dropped off. Defense didn't look as good. Offensive line didn't look as good. As far as South Carolina goes, I don't know what Spencer Rattler is yet. And so I think as the quarterback goes, so does the team go. So I need some more Rattler games.
But I'm going to tell you right now. If that offensive line doesn't get better before this weekend, before Saturday, that offensive line doesn't get better, this team's in trouble against the Hogs. In trouble in week 2. I'll keep an eye on practice reports for you, see what they put into it. But I hope it's a lot. That's 2 hours in the books on a Tuesday. Texas said, Rob, I'm here. I'm sad to hear that Bet for the Cycle ended. Did you ever get your Razor Ramon outfit finished? Very close to it. And Dress Like a Wrestler is in the Boo Box Bets punishment. So y'all still may get to see Razor Ramon make his appearance here on the Rob Brown Show. Remember, kids, bad times don't last. Bad guys do. Lorenzo, Rob, and you on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, what do we got in the chat? Roman's well on his way to his third year on top. Yeah, he's taking the belt to WrestleMania now, right? Like, there's nobody else. He takes the bet to WrestleMania.
There have already been references back and forth between he and The Rock.
Yeah, it's Roman versus The Rock. Question is, does The Rock unseat him, or does Roman win and walk away? Because I can't see The Rock unseat him. He's not going to stick around as champ.
See, I'm not so sure that Roman's the champ by then. Now that I think about it, it will be for the family. It won't be for the belt. That way, The Rock doesn't have to win
Yeah,
the
fair enough.
belt. He can win the family back.
Trey says, I wonder if Braun has a chance. Yeah, they don't bring him back if he doesn't.
Right.
I think he's
and
gonna-
he says, I'm going to SmackDown.
Right.
At the end
does
of
he
Raw.
think do I think he's getting a Cody push out the gate? No. Cody got a push because it was a coup over AEW. Braun's got to pay his penance for controlling his narrative. Isn't Roy Jones Jr. the boxer that showed Rob how to throw a punch? Yes, but here's the thing. Boxing is different than bar fighting, right? Because with a bar fight, most dudes are trying to just get up on you and throw punches. You can't step back and work the punch. You got to catch that dude on his way in, and if you don't catch him on the way in, now it's a close quarters fight. Not that easy.
That's why MMA is better for bar fighting, probably.
100%. 100%.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope, we use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios,
No, we tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
but you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our clients' best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structure, so we do better, but our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Premier source for high school football talk in the upstate is back this fall. I'm Rob Jones, inviting you to join me here on the Fan Upstate for the Saturday morning scramble. We'll have scores and stories from around the area, and we'll talk to the biggest names involved at the biggest games. It's the Saturday morning scramble from 8 to 10 a.m. each week on the Fan Upstate. Saturday morning scramble sponsored proudly by Founders Federal Credit Union and your local Ingles market. Only on the Fan Upstate. Always live on the Free Odyssey app.
I don't know. Maybe you could hit a stunner in a bar fight. I'd actually have to go to a bar to be in a bar fight. I don't want to be in a fight at all. But Rob and I have discussed this. There's no such thing as a fair fight, especially as you get older. If you're in a fight, you're just trying to live because you don't know if you could die. So it's a no DQ for me. I'm picking up anything I can and using it to get out of there. Rob acts like the pacifist. I think he's got a little fight in him now. I've seen some anger well up. I think he could handle himself if he had to. He got in a situation. I think he also would pick up a pull cue or something like that and use it as a weapon.
Me?
Yes.
Um,
If he got in a situation where he couldn't talk his way out, I think he'd be all right.
I think I do whatever it took not to get hit in the face.
Right. Exactly. Also, protecting the throat would be a good move too,
Yeah.
because the voice.
The voice.
Yeah, you got to protect the
The
voice.
golden vocals.
Right. That's what I mean, there are weapons. If someone comes in this room, there's all kinds of stuff. I'll pick a monitor up. I don't care. I'll pick Rob up if someone comes in here. I hit you with Rob.
I hit a dude with another dude.
Bobbert.
family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC part solution company that's grown into an international brand. Before AmericanEagle.com, we partially launched a new technology platform developed by another firm. American Eagle helped take our technology to a whole new level with digital marketing, software development, and business insights into our key markets, appliances, HVAC, and outdoor power equipment, and did so both on time and on
True, James. That's why I try to be low key wherever I am. And I also keep my voice down because I tend to make people mad. So I don't want them to recognize my voice. So you barely hear me above like this in restaurants.
Call AmericanEagle.com at 773 Network. That's AmericanEagle.com 773 Network.
Well,
Well,
look at there. It's only 2 seconds. You hear about palm strikes to the nose all the time. I wonder if that really works. I don't want to find out.
and here we go, kids. The third, the final, the best, the money hour. The Rob Brown Show starts right now. This is the Fan Upstate. How y'all doing? Great to have you back. Going to be back in the air chair after a long 3-day weekend where I did nothing, and it was spectacular. Enjoyed it immensely. I thought about it yesterday. I have left town every 3-day weekend this year. Every 3-day weekend, I either went back to Florida or went over to Charleston or went to middle of nowhere, Alabama. I didn't do anything this weekend. I mean, I did stuff. Like I hiked. I hosted a karaoke party. But I didn't go anywhere, and it was amazing. I just did whatever I wanted and then slept a lot. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Anyway, a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to talk about here in the third hour of the show. Lot of games this weekend to address. We know we got the Clemson victory. They are 1-0. The Gamecocks are now 1-0. That is official. Outside of that, let's talk about a couple of other games that mattered. And we will start with this one. We have got Notre Dame and The Ohio State University. OSU is 1-0 after knocking off the Irish. Here's where I came down on that one. I think a lot of people, though, are sleeping on Notre Dame right now. I think this team is going to be better than they're given credit for. I think a lot of people looked at Ohio State and went, oh, I think they're overrated. Oh, they're overrated. They shouldn't be that high. They struggled against Notre Dame. And I understand why, right? For the past handful of years, Notre Dame has done this every year. They get a very high ranking because they're Notre Dame, because they're a name, because they're a draw. They get some top billing, and then they fall out and fall apart. I don't think that's the case this year. I think it's a pretty good team. Now, stat-wise, they didn't really blow you away. Tyler Butner went 10 of 18, $177, no touches, no picks. Not a ton on the rushing line. Chris Tyree, 6 carries for 28. You had a 21 and an 18-yard rusher as well. I think this Notre Dame team is squarely behind Marcus Freeman. And I think this team's got some talent. I honestly think this was less Ohio State University played down to Notre Dame and barely got out of there versus Ohio State actually played pretty good football against a decent Notre Dame team that's probably going to be led by defense this year, and beat them by 11. C.J. Stroud, 24 of 34, 223, a pair of touchdowns, average 6.6 every time he threw the ball, QBR of 90, or just a tick under. Trevion Henderson, 15 carries, 91 yards. Mayan Williams, 14 carries, 84 yards. Through the air, 90 for Igbuka. 9 grabs, 1 touchdown. Harrison Jr., 5 for 56. Xavier Johnson, 2 for 34 and a touch. In fact, the only thing I would say about Ohio State is they did all that with a really not great night out of Jackson Smith and Jigba, who only had 2 catches for 3 yards.
He got hurt.
Right. They did it without him, right? And in doing it without him, he got what? He got his first catch. He got banged up on that catch. He got one more that didn't go for anything, and then he was done.
Then he was in street clothes.
Yeah.
Which is a concern.
Without their best receiver on the field, they still went for 223 and 2 touches through the air. This Ohio State team is good. This Notre Dame team is better than advertised and ran up against a buzzsaw in week 1 in Ohio State.
You know, I completely agree with you. I think this came down to Notre Dame being better than what people thought.
Yep.
And Ohio State being overly conservative. Once they got the lead in the second half, Ryan Day was like, "Yeah, we'll just slow it down and we'll win this game."
Yep.
We're not going to give Notre Dame a chance to come back. They realized how tough Notre Dame was, didn't give them an opportunity, and they won the game. I was never, as a fan, I was never concerned. I wasn't. It's what you're watching a game and your team's down or they're struggling. Sometimes you just have that feeling like, yeah, we still got this, and I felt that way.
I agree with you.
I was disappointed in the victory, though. I just have to say, for other reasons.
I agree with you. I absolutely think that Ohio State kind of let off the accelerator and were willing to play conservative offense to keep the ball away from Notre Dame. I think Ohio State is good. I think Notre Dame is better than they're being given credit for. I honestly think Notre Dame is, Alonzo, at the worst, they're a 10-win team. They're 10-2 at the worst. Realistically, could be 11-1 because Notre Dame can beat Clemson at home right now. And the only question mark is, how good behind Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley is SC going to be, because they end the year on the road in L.A.
Can Notre Dame still make the playoff with a loss to Ohio State? Does it depend on how well Ohio State plays the rest of the year?
No, I think they absolutely can.
Yeah.
I think they absolutely, unless Ohio State drops 3 or 4, which they're not going to. I'm going to tell you right now, Notre Dame is a potential playoff team with that loss. You lost by 11 on the road at the number 2 team in the country. If they win out, they will have a win over top 25 BYU, top 5 Clemson, top 15 SC. Now, they need all 3 of those teams to kind of hold their weight. But in 11-1, and considering what they are as a television draw, we can pretend playoff selections aren't about draws, but they are. That's why it took so long to get a non-Power 5 team in there, right? If Notre Dame goes out and goes 11-1, as I think they genuinely could, then the Irish are a playoff team. And keep in mind, if they go 11-1, it means they beat Clemson, and they would take that 4 spot from the Tigers. If the Tigers go 11-1 and Notre Dame goes 11-1, it means Notre Dame beat Clemson and Notre Dame goes in ahead of Clemson. They could realistically take that spot. Clemson has to win that game. But again, it's on the road. And we also know that Notre Dame is willing to, grow the grass out a little bit to slow down your team's speed, to play physical football. They'll practice on it. You won't. And this one's at Notre Dame. Texas says, Rob, I see the opposite. I think Ohio State had first game jitters and we will start blowing teams out, but Notre Dame is average. That's the interesting part, Lonzo, about week 1 every year is that there are some teams that have no jitters and are good, some teams that have no jitters that are bad, and some teams that have jitters and look bad, but they are good, and you can't really know which one it is until week 2. I think Ohio State, I think both these teams maybe had some first game jitters. Sure, it happens to the best of us.
CJ Stroud definitely had some jitters for sure.
Sure.
Without a doubt. But I'm with you, and I'm a Buckeye fan. I think that Notre Dame is a lot better than people think. Do I think Ohio State's in trouble because they struggle with Notre Dame? No, I don't. But Notre Dame better than what people think. And does it really come down, is coaching the reason why?
I don't know, because I mean, we can't know what Marcus Freeman is as an in-game head coach yet, right? We got one game. And by the way, a game where they went up against the consensus second best team in America. I wouldn't say consensus.
Are the polls out yet?
No.
Because Georgia will probably move ahead of Ohio State.
After the demo job they put on the Ducks.
That's fine. You just need to be in the top 4.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I hate those people. Well, no, you want to be in 2 because you don't want to play the number 1 team. You're going to have to play them anyway.
Yeah. I agree. I think CJ had some early game jitters. But I also wonder how different those numbers are if Smith-Njigba doesn't get hurt. They're probably better, right? He's probably threatening 300 yards and 3 touchdowns instead of 223 and 2.
Would have been more scoring in the second half, but Ryan Day shut it down. He absolutely shut it down.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think that ultimately Ryan Day started. Oh, Notre Dame's a turf field now. What am I talking about? Thanks, Texter. That is right. It is a turf field now. Been that way for a couple of seasons. That's on me. Did you get the point? Notre Dame's not going to be an easy place to play, especially if Notre Dame doesn't lose another game between now and then, right? And I don't know that they do. Let's see, Marshall, Cal, North Carolina, who just gave up 62 to Appalachian State. At home against number 25 BYU. They'll win that game. Back home for Stanford. Back home for UNLV. They're at Syracuse. They should be fine in that game. And then back home for Clemson. Notre Dame won't lose another game until they play Clemson. And I'm not saying they'll lose to Clemson. Right now, I'm picking Notre Dame in that game if that game's this week. I pick Notre Dame if that game is this week. A lot of growth between now and week, what is that, 8? A lot of growth between now and week 8. But I think when people look at that game, they're looking at that game and they're going, Ohio State's not that good. I disagree. I think Notre Dame's going to be better than people give them credit for being. The other game I wanted to get into, you mentioned it just a second ago, Lonzo. 49-3, the Dogs over the Ducks. I tried to tell y'all, Georgia's still really good.
I listened to that other show. I should not have let them influence me into thinking that was the case, and that other show kind of talked me into it.
I mean, if only there was a host on this show who told you Georgia was going to be the Dogs.
Why would I ever listen to that other guy? I don't know. I don't know.
How about Stetson Bennett? 25 of 31, 368, and 2 touchdowns. Somebody at the bar last night was like, Stetson Bennett, if he doesn't win a title with the Dogs, he's like running an insurance company right now. I mean, 25 of 31, 368, 2 touchdowns, and didn't play a chunk of the third quarter. I'd say he did all right. Bo Nix, former Auburn quarterback, 21 of 37, $173, and 2 picks. Was also the leading rusher with a grand total of 37 yards on the ground. Lonzo, if I ask you to name me something that went right for the Oregon Ducks in this game, what would you come up with?
The Oregon Duck mascot is still
the funniest mascot in college football.
So they had that.
Yep. I like the all green unis. I thought the green unis were a look, right? Green unis with a highlighter. I got nothing. Georgia dominated in every aspect of the game. every aspect of the game. This team is freaking good. Yeah, they had some guys transfer. You know why those guys transferred? Because they got more guys coming in. It's that simple. They didn't lose guys and bleed talent because they went elsewhere for what? A better chance to win? No. They went elsewhere likely because their jobs were threatened. Maybe one or two were like, oh, I can get more NIL money. But who's getting more NIL money than the reigning, defending, undisputed national champions? Nobody. I tried to tell you guys, this Georgia team's good. All right, let me get Kevin in here. I got Dave Schultz of WNSP coming on in the next segment to talk a little Southern college football with us. But let me get my man Kevin in here before we do that. Kev, what's up, fella?
What's happening, man?
How you doing, big dog?
Oh, man, chilling, man. Hey, man, it was a good weekend of football, man. Tell you what, my Tar Heels, I don't know what to think about these boys, but the Coastal Division, it's going to be, I don't know. Notre Dame joined the conference, man. You got one side to run for the next 5 to 10 years. So right now, Miami, I think Miami got it sold up right now if they play. But to be up 48-28, and then you win 63-61, we got a whole problem there. We got a problem in Tar Heelville, man.
I saw that. I mean, obviously, I watched that game, and after the game was over, Mac Brown was in the locker room, like doing everything but smoking the cigar. Right? Was dancing, and I'm like, guys, like you didn't beat Clemson, man. That's Appalachian State. Right. I mean, a win's a win in college football, and I'm all good with it, but you gave up 60, and the Mountaineers are a good team, right? I mean, Diesel's going to come on this afternoon at 3 and tell you how good they are, and he knows that team better than I do. But even at their house, even in Boone, for a Tar Heels team that a lot of people considered a dark horse as an ACC contender this year, to give up 62 in regulation is not good.
It's not good at all, man. Not good. And then you let FAMU score 24 on you, and they didn't score but 3 against Jackson State.
Yeah,
like this is a whole situation to me. Like they're trying to drive Mac Brown from the sideline straight to the nursing home, man. He going straight to the nursing home as soon as he leaves because he gonna be sick, man. He got back into it, and I love him for it. But good Lord, this is how do they not know how to tackle? Like this is college football. Come on.
Yeah, and let's be real, Kev. If that 2-point conversion doesn't go over dude's fingertips, y'all are at least going to overtime, if not losing that game. That's not good enough.
We might still be playing right now. It might be 127-127.
That's a fact. Kev, good to talk to you, big dog. Appreciate it. We'll talk more about the Tar Heels coming up. But in the next segment, let's talk with Dave Schultz, WNSP Mobile, Alabama. He's a big college football guy. We'll chat with him next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, stream, be right back while I hand over a phone number. Don't go anywhere.
Gee, I wonder who's facing the Nerf wall Saturday. I wonder who might be doing that.
Did I lose?
I just said I wonder. I am not going to reveal who's facing the wall because it's much too fun to keep it a secret.
To watch people squirm.
Oh. I'm going to do like I did last time. I'm going to reveal like once per segment
Who's not on
who's
it?
not on it. Yes.
The best sports talk radio show in the state of South Carolina, as long as you only ask people named Robert Lonzo. This is the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Let's go to the phone lines and welcome in and talk some football with one of my favorite dudes to talk college football with from WNSP Radio down in Mobtown, Alabama. The legendary Dave Schultz joins us here on the show. Dave, what's up, big fella? How you been, buddy?
Oh, legendary only if you're asking my mother?
Dude, my mom says the same thing about me, and as far as I'm concerned, print the damn T-shirts, Dave.
Right, I'm with you. It's not a bad idea.
How you been, big dog?
We're good. How about you?
It's college football season. How much better could I be? My job just got
sure is.
1,000% easier, and my weekends feel better already.
God, that was an insane weekend.
Wasn't it?
Right? Insane. From West Virginia, was that even last weekend? West Virginia and Pitt to Tennessee to App State in North Carolina. And then, I'm still not over that LSU game. And then, Clemson had a little bit of a rocky road. Then you wake up and it's 41-10. So it was a crazy weekend.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I got a few things I want to jump into, but let's start with, because there's a couple of FSU fans up here in the upstate, a couple of LSU fans as well. In your opinion, was that game won by LSU or won by FSU, lost by LSU, or some combination of the two?
Well, that's a good question. It was absolutely lost by LSU, and Mike Norvell did everything possible to hand it to the Tigers. Almost to the point where, did Mike Norvell actually bet on LSU? Because, and I'm all for going for it. I'm all about Herm Edwards, right? You play to win the game. I want touchdowns after touchdowns. Kicking field goals is lame. It's like we're going to keep it close so we don't get blown out. But at 3 points with, a couple minutes left in the first half, I don't think LSU is going to get to where they got. Right? I really didn't think they were going to get to where they got. So I'm going to kick a field goal and make it 10-7 or 10-3, right? And then at the end of the game, I'm going to kick another field goal. So now they can't possibly win the ball game or tie the game in regulation. And yet both those things almost came back to crush Mike Norvell. Think what the sentiment would be, and it's certainly not a big if, right? But if they get a 2-point conversion and win the game, what's the story today, right? Or yesterday? That would have been like LSU was awful for about 58 minutes of the game or 59 minutes of the game and stole one from Florida State because Mike Norvell screwed it up time and time and time again. And so I don't know if the things that LSU did are fixable. I think their mistakes are fixable in terms of extra points and fielding punts, but they have no offensive line. Their big defensive guy in the middle is gone for the season. Allie Gay was selfish by getting, headbutting the quarterback and trying to decapitate Jordan Travis. And then they had a stupid penalty on a kickoff where they're trying to, change field position, and they allow Florida State to start out at the 40-yard line. So the things that Brian Kelly are going to need to be fixable, it's going to take a couple of years to do it. I think LSU is in big trouble, and I still don't know what to make about Florida State. Jordan Travis is impressive. Jaden Daniels is impressive, but I don't know about anything else. You've been watching football just as long as I have, Rob. Maybe a little bit shorter. I may be a little bit older. But where were the LSU linebackers? Are they even playing? You can't have the defensive line and the defensive backs leading the team in tackles. Where was Mike Jones? These guys had 3 tackles by the linebackers in the first half, and that was on the last possession of the first half where they went forward on 4th down. I just don't know where the LSU linebackers are. So
it's funny. I said the same thing about Sorry, I didn't mean to
I don't know if
interrupt.
it
I said
makes
the same
much
thing
sense.
about FSU in that how many times you got to let Daniels run for 22 and a first down before you think, we probably ought to try to cover that guy up, especially when LSU really didn't have anything else going offensively at that point. Booty was MIA for the majority of that game. Like, the one thing they have going for him, how do you not cover that up, especially on that last drive?
Well, obviously they figured out LSU. It took like 3.5 quarters to figure it out. We can't do 5-step drops. We can't do 7-step drops. We got to do 3-step drops and get it out of Jaden Daniels' hand as quickly as possible. And you could see him go through the progressions. It wasn't like you looked at one progression and ran. He was going through 2 or even maybe 3, and then he would take off. And you can't blame him for taking off because everybody was in his face all night long. And then they finally used Booty as the decoy where they're throwing it to other wide receivers. You would think that LSU, using Jaden Daniels as their quarterback, would know their offensive line is an issue, and they didn't really, make any changes until they started going up tempo in the middle of the third quarter. So you got to wonder what the coaches were thinking this whole time. And I'm not, all of a sudden, Rob, Auburn looks like they can go 5-0 if you want a hot overreaction from the weekend. Auburn could go 5-0 because they got all 5 games at home. They got Penn State coming in a couple weeks, and then LSU coming in a couple weeks after that. They very easily could start out the season 5-0.
Let's talk a couple of teams around the SEC, and I'll start with, first off, just your opinion on, I know a lot of eyes were turned towards South Carolina with year 2 of Shane Beamer, a lot of hype around that program in the offseason. A little bit of a struggle early with Georgia State. A couple of special teams turnovers do give them a little bit more comfortable win, and they cover. But Dave Schultz, I was overall pretty meh, predominantly because of the offensive line. I thought Spencer Rattler showed that he's capable of everything he's advertised to be, but the offensive line looked bad. I went from, hey, 8-4 is a possibility to 6-6 is going to be a fight. Is that an overreaction?
Well, Spencer Rattler didn't play that well. People are very high on still Spencer Rattler. I was not one of those guys, but I'm also going to take a deep breath and probably try not to overreact, despite what I just said, to what happened in week 1, right? Last night people were talking about we need to make a change at Clemson at quarterback in the first quarter, and by midway through the third quarter, DJ looked pretty good, although I guess those calls are still being called for, right? I made fun of Haynes King because it looked like he short-armed a ball because if he threw it where he wanted to throw, it was going to be picked up. So he's like, I got to throw this 5 yards short, and it didn't look like he knew who he was throwing it to. And then all of a sudden it's 31-0, and he plays well after the rain delay. So I'm not going to totally overreact. Spencer Rattler's in a new spot, right? You're going from, you were at Oklahoma, then, you got benched, and then you're leaving, and the coach left, and now I'm going to South Carolina, and haven't even been there for a year yet. And so got to let these guys breathe a little bit. And so we'll see what happens between week 1 and week 2. I'm just not going to go crazy over a less than stellar performance in week 1. So let's give South Carolina a chance to breathe. And think what you're talking about. South Carolina could win 8 games. That's pretty good if you're South Carolina. If you think that's the max, mostly because of their schedule, all of a sudden, Florida looks really tough. We didn't know how good they were going to be. Even if they lost that game against Utah, right, Florida still looked pretty good because I think Utah is pretty good. So I'm going to take a deep breath when it comes to South Carolina.
And that was the next team I wanted to ask you about. Don't want to overreact negatively to South Carolina struggling early against Georgia State. On the flip side, Florida looks like they got a little bit of offense. And Anthony Richardson, that dude was slipping tackles. He had no business slipping. That team looked really, really good. Overreacting to thinking that Florida could threaten to be a 9, maybe 10-win team this year.
Well, they did get a little bit lucky. Let's be honest. Okay, Richardson played well, but I think the defensive line was gassed at the end, and they just were not getting any pressure on the Utah quarterback whatsoever. Not only the front four not getting any pressure, Napier just was not applying any pressure, right? Not bringing a blitz or anything like that. And so Utah got greedy, which you can't really blame them for. We're going to try and win this game on the road and get out of here with a victory. And the tight end falls down, and they make a great interception. So I don't see the difference between Florida winning or losing. I don't think was that big a deal, right? Because you'd still be like, oh my God, Napier has them going in the right direction, whereas Florida. LSU was like, that was an ugly game, whether they had escaped it or not. And it only got uglier because of the end. So I'm still really high on Billy Napier. And I'll be honest with you and your listeners, Rob, I feel very uncomfortable rooting for the Florida Gators, but because I covered Napier at Louisiana, I'd like to see him succeed. He's a really good guy. So I do feel uncomfortable rooting for the Gators, but I'm not sure winning or losing would have changed perception of that ball game because they played really well and they played a good team. I mean, Utah's really good, despite me not really giving any respect to the Pac-12. Utah is really good.
Dave Schultz from WNSP Radio in Mobile, Alabama, here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. The Crimson Tide, 55-0 winners over a team that, frankly, even just looking at them, shouldn't have been on the field. But that's exactly the type of game that Nick Saban likes to have, that kind of tune-up game early. We've seen them play some really good opening round competition, but this looked like an exhibition of Dave Schultz, exactly why Bama is the number one team in the country, according to the AP.
Yeah, I wouldn't poo-poo Utah State. I mean, they're a group of 5. They're not FCS or anything like that. They're a good football team, too. They'll probably win 8, 9, 10 games this year. But obviously they don't belong on the same field as Alabama. And, good luck beating Alabama and Georgia this year. I mean, those two teams look head and shoulders above everybody else that we saw. We'll see if, teams like Miami or, God forbid, my Orange take a next step to be even in the top 25. But, I mean, when you see Ohio State and Notre Dame kind of slog it through, Alabama was outstanding. Tough to be more efficient than scoring 7 touchdowns on your first 7 possessions when you're Georgia. It doesn't look like they lost a step at all defensively. And again, good luck stopping Alabama. I mean, I thought they were just going to run it, and they actually had issues running the football, despite what the statistics said, because Bryce Young was more scrambling than running play for him. But they got a lot of new players, and they got a freshman wide receiver, Kobe Prentice, who's really good. Good luck stopping Alabama. It doesn't matter if there's 2 teams in the playoff, 4 teams, 12 teams, 16 teams. It still looks like it's going to be Alabama, Georgia, and that's obviously a real hot take, after week 1. But those 2 teams look far and above better than everybody else.
Speaking of another team that looked high and above better than everybody else, the Georgia Bulldogs bring Oregon into the ATL and just absolutely drop the Hogan-esque leg on them. I tried telling everybody up here, Dave Schultz, that team was going to be really good this year. There were a lot of folks, I won't mention any specific names, that broadcast from 3 to 7 here on the station that were trying to sell me on, there's transfers, they're falling off. How good that Georgia team looked to you?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was waiting for the over-under to go to 11.5 wins. I was going to take the under because I do believe, when you lose that kind of talent, that it can't be the same level. Maybe I was wrong. I don't think the odds changed, so I never got it in there because the over-under was 10.5 before. I probably should have taken the over at that point in time. But Georgia looked every bit as good as they did last year. I will say one thing, as a hashtag always a bright side kind of guy there, Rob. You know what Bo Nix's strength is? Bo Nix's strength is he does a really good impersonation of Bo Nix. He looks exactly like Bo Nix did in year 1, and year 2, and year 3 at Auburn, and not much has changed. You thought maybe a new offense and a new scenery, and Eugene, Oregon would be a little bit different than what he had in Auburn, and he just wasn't. Whereas Stetson Bennett, everyone wants to say that Stetson Bennett, well, he's not a pro prospect. Well, I don't care that he's a pro prospect. You know what? Stetson Bennett's a really good college football quarterback. He's really good at it. And even Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl is pumping him up and saying, look at some of these throws he's making, right? I mean, I don't know if Stetson Bennett is going to be, a pro guy. You could certainly see him spending 10 years as a backup, right? He's got to be better than some of the backups in the NFL if that's what he wants to do. I don't know if that's what he wants to do, but Stetson Bennett looked really good. Instead of maybe having the backfield as they did last year, right, the 3-headed monster, maybe their 3-headed monster is that tight end, right? I mean, Brett Bowers may be the biggest mismatch in the country when it comes to, football and the tight ends for Georgia. So, again, good luck beating Alabama and or Georgia this year because, those 2 teams look really, really good this past weekend.
Dave Schultz here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Let's flip it over. Got an opportunity last night to go eyes on Clemson for the first time. A lot of folks up here, Dave Schultz, are ready to put DJ Uiagalelei on the bench and bring in Cade Klubnik, especially considering Klubnik did look good on that last touchdown drive to wrap up the game. I, on the other hand, think if the wide receivers don't drop the pass that they drop and if the offensive line plays a little bit better, DJ actually looked okay. As an outsider looking in, what's your thought on what we saw out of DJ, out of the offense of Clemson last night?
Yeah, I thought the bigger culprit was the offensive line. He did not have a whole lot of time to throw it, and he seemed to be under duress for most of that. And I'm certainly not going to take what, the guy at the end of the game did against Georgia Tech, not knowing if they're playing their starters or he's in there against gas, defenders. So I can't go nuts for that. Again, DJ would be a good example of, it didn't look great in the first half, although they did finish it up strong. That whole thing, what is Jeff Collins doing, by the way? Does he know how to coach college football? Does he really want us to believe that he thought Dabo was going to go for it on 4th and 3 on their own 43-yard line? Do we really believe that? I don't know what Jeff Collins is doing. So maybe he needs, I don't want to be too rude, but maybe he needs college football coaching for dummies. I don't know, because I'm not sure what Jeff Collins was doing last night. But again, I would give DJ a little bit more of a little bit longer of a time as a starter, and I think he'll be fine. Others do not believe that, but again, you went to first quarter didn't look very good, beginning of the third quarter didn't look very good, and all of a sudden it's 41-10. So I know they had blocked a couple of punts. We'll see what's going forward. Although my Orange looked really good there.
Cuse did look
my Orange
good.
looked really good. I don't know if they're that good. My brother took his son, who's a Louisville fan, because that's where they live, and he's like, yeah, he had a little bit tough time processing it. I had a tough time processing it. There's no way Syracuse is that good. There's no way Syracuse is that good. All of a sudden, Syracuse could start out the season 5-0 before they get that ACC gauntlet, and I think it's NC State, Clemson, Pitt, Notre Dame, 4 games in a row. But let's see what they look like in a month and a half, because they look really good on Saturday.
Yeah, no, they really did. 31 points against the Louisville team. And more importantly, held Louisville to 7. A lot of us thought Louisville, probably not a contender, but a team that was going to be putting up 27, 35 points a game, held them to just 7, and a good win for the Orange Man.
Yeah, Louisville turned it over a bunch. They had averaged a bunch of yards and only scored 7 points, so they turned it over a couple of times. Syracuse lost a couple of players, but that Sean Tucker is everything as advertised. He's as good as it comes in college football when it comes to running backs. I mean, they set up a screen, and he made one guy miss, and, there was nobody there because it was a well-designed play, but no one was going to catch him either in the open field. Sean Tucker is really good, and the quarterback, Garrett Schrader, is all of a sudden, can't miss except when guys are dropping him when they hit him in the hands. So, again, it would be typical of my Orange to, lose to UConn or eke one out and then, bring me back down to earth. So we'll see what happens. But, they get Purdue at home. That seems to be winnable. They get Virginia at home. If those games were on the road, probably not as winnable. But they're all at home except UConn, so we'll see what happens this week.
All right.
My nephew was supposed to wear orange going to school in Louisville, but I think he flaked on the bet with his father.
Boo. Teach him young. Got to have ethics, man, integrity.
Right.
All right, last one before we cut you loose, Dave Schultz. Notre Dame, Ohio State. Ohio State wins 21-10, and there are a lot of folks in my neighborhood that are saying, see, I told you Ohio State's not that good. They're overrated, etc. My response is, I actually think Notre Dame is going to be better this year. I think they're going to be pretty good, and schedule sets up nice with Clemson coming to the house this year. Am I overvaluing Notre Dame, or are the folks up here right and everybody's overvaluing Ohio State? Knee-jerk reaction to that game.
Well, my knee-jerk reaction is I made the same stupid mistake twice as that I bet on Ohio State early. Right, last year they lost to Oregon at home, and this year they do win but don't cover against Notre Dame. Remember what it looked like when C.J. Stroud last year to begin with. I'm like, well, this guy stinks. And then, outside of the Michigan game, he was really good. And he was really good with his backup wide receivers in the Rose Bowl against Utah. So we'll, again, give C.J. Stroud a pass for week 1. I'm just not a Notre Dame fan, never have been. I hope they're not any good. I will vehemently root against Notre Dame at all potential opportunities. So we'll have to see if they're any good. But, they got shut out in the second half. I'm not sure, and then this is not, right, we got the Alabamas of the world. I know it's against lesser opponents, putting up 55 points, and Georgias of the world putting up, 49 points. And, these guys, the name of the game is not, 3 yards in a cloud of dust anymore. You're going to have to put up some more points. And so if we're putting down Ohio State because they can't keep up, well, what's Notre Dame, right? Even if you think they're better than advertised, you're still going to have to score some points somewhere along the way, right? 24 points ain't going to cut it unless you have, a Georgia or an Alabama defense. And maybe those two teams do. I don't know yet. But I'm still looking for that fourth team there, brother, because I still think it's going to be Ohio State, Georgia and Alabama. Is USC going to be that fourth team? Can Miami get up there? Who's going to be that fourth team? I'm not sure it's Clemson. Everybody had Clemson. I'm not sure it's Clemson.
That is Dave Schultz. He is a legend in his mother's mind. Broadcast on WNSP Radio down in Mobtown, Mobile, Alabama. Dave Schultz, you are a legend, buddy. I appreciate it.
Has the guy who hosts 3 to 7, has he made T-shirts? I host national radio on the weekends yet?
I don't think he has.
No.
But I will let you know when they become available.
I came on his show, and he must have slipped that in there like 3 or 4 times.
I believe the kids call that a humble brag, Dave Schultz.
Oh yeah, no, he was humble bragging. I called him out for it. Yeah,
I like
that's exactly what he does.
So that's why Dave Schultz keeps making appearances on the Fan Upstate. Thank you, big fella. We'll talk to you soon, pal.
Appreciate it, Rob. Thank
Always the legend, Dave Schultz, joining us here on the show. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We got to make one quick announcement, and then it's Twitter trending topics to wrap up Lonzo's week or Tuesday on a good mood, maybe? Question mark. The Rob Brown Show is on the Fan Upstate. Oof. Oof, not a good start. I was not, James. I didn't make it because I had some stuff come up that Thursday that took me until like 3 o'clock to get finished. So I missed the Greenville stop. And by the time that I got done, had I gone to Spartanburg to see it, I would have at best been getting there while they were packing it up. I was like, I don't want to drive to Spartanburg in case I maybe see the case it comes in, which is a bummer. I was very disappointed in myself. Not myself. I had real life pop up. It happens to the best of us.
I don't like that word, James.
Joe and I were having a conversation last night about wrestling, and we were talking about like the fact that part of the reason we're sometimes so adverse to telling people we're wrestling fans is because of other wrestling fans. And we came off of that conversation on trying to explain to people why out loud one of us said "scissor me daddy ass" last night. And we're like, if you don't watch that show, that is the weirdest sentence you've ever heard a grown man say.
Even if you do watch that show, it's still weird. It is.
That's very fair. Very fair.
And the fact that they put them back together just for that reason. That's the only reason why they did that. I just happened to notice that, Steven. He did do that.
Week 1 of Boo Box Bets is in the books. Listen to that alliteration. And tomorrow on the show, drawing punishment number 1, thanks to his own football team not covering the spread, will be the great one, Lonzo. I had Illinois covering up 1.5 over Indiana. That was a miss, 23-20 Illinois. Falls to Indiana. Lonzo got that one correct. We both had North Carolina to cover at 1.5. They won by 2. That was a win. Also took a pair of losses, did we, when NC State edged out ECU by a point, 11.5 point favorites. The game that did it for me, I had the Dogs covering up 17 total against Oregon. They won 49-3. No problem with that one. We both got Arkansas over Cincinnati correct. 24-31, your final. Arkansas 6.5 point favorites. We both missed Utah taking on Florida. 29-26, the Gators pull the upset in the Swamp. I got Notre Dame inside of 17 correct. Lonzo had OSU to cover up that 17, and that was the difference. We both got South Carolina correct. We both got LSU -3 incorrect, and we both got Clemson -23.5 correct. So on the week and on the year, Rob is 6-4. Lonzo goes 5-5. And the Boo Box Bet punishment makes its debut tomorrow.
All I got to say is you got me screaming at my TV going, "Don't you do that, Ryan Day. Don't you do that. Don't you." And then
Throw the ball!
And then I was wishing and hoping and yelling, "Please intercept the ball and run it back. Pick six, and an extra point, and I'm good." But no, didn't happen. He decided to go conservative on me, and it hurt me. That's fine.
Yes, he did.
That's fine. They still won the game. So, I mean, it could have been worse.
Yes, he did.
I might be saying something differently tomorrow, though.
So we will see what the punishment drawn by one Lonzo is. And I found out on Friday night, Lonzo, that Kristen downstairs knows how to put hair into a man bun. And she said she would be more than happy to come up here and take care of
Oh,
that.
I bet she would.
She said she would be more than happy to come up here and put those hair. Not that that's what he's going to draw.
It'll probably end up being extra tight, too.
Oh, yeah. That's a man bun, man. It's got to look good. It's got to look good. So Zoe goes 5-5, falls in the Boo Box Bets Week 1 category. We'll make it up with our picks on Friday. This week, 5 NFL games, 5 college games. Let's roll.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter Trending Topics.
All right, I don't know if I have enough heart to do this, but it's time for Twitter Trending Topics. I'll survive, and Rob will get his, I hope, at some point. All right, the first thing that's trending, just because I want to say this, Bjork is trending. Bjork.
Listen, I don't know why she's trending. I just know that the Bjork on Celebrity Jeopardy on Saturday Night Live a number of years ago will go down as one of the most iconic SNL moments. Everything is this buzzer is music, and Trebek losing his mind.
She's got a new album out. Just dropped, apparently. So it's.
I can tell you I am 78% sure I've never heard a Bjork song. I'm relatively sure I've never heard a Bjork song.
I bet she had one crossover hit, and I think you've probably heard of it.
I'll have to figure out what it was.
All right, the next thing that's trending is Triple H.
Triple H is trending because he has been promoted. He was not just the CFO, but he's now the chief, branding or content officer.
He is chief content officer.
The CCO, which of course, welcome to 2022, is a position businesses have. The chief content, which makes sense. He's putting the damn show together.
He is.
I mean, he is literally the content guy.
All right, speaking of the show, the Elite are trending.
This is interesting. After the AEW pay-per-view this weekend, which I thought was really good, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't watch it for the reason why I told you I wasn't going to watch it.
It was pretty good. Spoiler alert, he shows back up, which I'm very excited about. If you don't know who he is, watch the show or get on social media. But afterwards, CM Punk went into a tirade in the post-fight press conference alongside Tony Khan and had some really not so great things to say. I got to tell you, Zoe, CM Punk did a really good job at taking me off of Team Punk this weekend. But after it was over, because he called out the AEW roster in a really jackass kind of way, apparently Ace Steel went from guy nobody's heard of to guy who dropped F-bomb on TV to guy who alongside CM Punk got into a fight with Kenny Omega and at least one half of the Young Bucks. Ace Steel apparently threw a chair and knocked out Nick Jackson. And now there's talk about how is Khan going to handle this? Because remember, he suspended Eddie Kingston for a couple of weeks for putting his hand on Guevara's face and pushing it away.
Hey, your hero, CM Punk. I'm talking about the people out there. He's been this kind of person everywhere he's been, and you still root for him.
I got to tell you, I think he's got to go now, right? You can't lose the Bucks and Omega and probably Hangman because they'd all walk together and know that Triple H
and they
would be waiting on the phone.
Threatened to walk, according to stories.
I let him walk. I really do.
I'm talking about, yeah.
No, I let Punk walk. Hey, man, I'm sorry. You can't do that. That's too much. You're dropping the belt or you're walking. Your pick. That's terrible. All right, kids, that's it for us. Jim Rome's got you up next in the jungle. Mark Ryan and Diesel take you offsides at 3. Appreciate you hanging in there. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll get more into these games from the weekend and start looking ahead to week 2 already. This is the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Later, brother.
All right, Steven, here's a problem. If we're broadcasting to like 7 different things, and sometimes the comments don't show up, there's some sort of permission that I have to give somewhere that I got to figure out where to give.
They upgrade. The bosses downstairs upgraded us to premium StreamYard, which gives us a lot more places we can send the stream to. But there's also a bunch of settings that we didn't have time to play with before we started the show. We'll hopefully have those worked out tomorrow. But we appreciate you guys hanging out and watching. We'll be back